Hells yeah.
What's going on, everybody? Cali Death Podcast back once again, episode 163. I am your host, Anthony Trapani. As always, I got some resident homies with me, Casey Howard and Joseph K with me tonight. What up, y'all?
Yo.
Well, hello.
Hello to you as well. And we are joined tonight by Sean May of Bludgeoned and Violence Only. What up, Sean?
Yes, we are.
What's up, everybody?
Chilling, dude. Just
Thanks for having
hanging
me.
out. No problem, dude. Already. Yeah, dude. No, this is cool. I like to be introduced to representing down.
Hey,
Was that? Oh, we got a Bludgeoned shirt on. Oh yeah,
it looks good.
Yeah, if we want to get into the lore already, I saw Sean and these guys play last in October, and it was fucking sick.
Nice.
Very sick stuff. Yeah.
One thing that I do like about this show is that bands that I should be listening to end up, coming across my radar, or they end up being, a member or two coming on the show and being introduced to a band that I'm enjoying listening to because of the show. I think that's super cool. I that's just, one of the main things that I like about this show, just being able to be forced to be exposed to music, because I'm not a deep digger like I used to be. I don't have as much time to sit and dig on the internet to find new bands, listen to new bands, and so I'm just happy that one can fall into my lap because of the show. So yeah, dude, Bludgeoned's one of them for sure. I definitely we were talking pre-pod. I really enjoy the vibe. It very nostalgic for us, 2000, early 2000 death metal musicians from California, and it definitely harkens back to that era for me when I listened to it. So yeah, dude, Bludgeoned's sick, dude.
Thank you for saying that. I mean, you guys laid down the blueprint basically for everything we do. I mean, I'm talking about especially the California death metal scene in particular, the bands like Odious Mortem, Deeds of Flesh, Disgorge, of course. Deprecated was really sick back in the day. I mean, too many to mention, but I mean that's why we do what we do, and we're happy to try to represent to the fullest that we can. I know we're up in Washington, but that's still technically the West Coast. So
I think that there's versions of trying to not necessarily replicate, but contribute to a style that you're influenced by, and you can kind of sniff out the ones who are trying to kind of coattail a style versus somebody who really loves it. You can feel that in certain bands that there were some proto unique leader style, or proto may not be the word, but like, unique leader-esque bands that were happening after that first wave of unique leader, that you could just sniff it out, like, oh, they're just trying to, sound like what's popular, in the underground at least. But then you come across other bands where it's like, no, you could actually feel that they actually really loved this, little pocket of music. And you guys do that too, because I mean, when you guys started releasing in 2019, right? The first single that I'm an idiot to some, but I just use Amazon Music versus Spotify because it's already linked to my shit, and I don't need another a la carte subscription added to my list of subscriptions that I already have right now. And so I use that. And so 2019 was the earliest release that I can get on Amazon Music from you guys. Did you guys start releasing before that?
It was right, I believe, 2018, late 2018, when we released the very first single. I mean, originally it was just on YouTube, on like Slam Worldwide. We didn't drop it on Spotify or anything like that. It was just a one-off thing, and eventually it did find its way onto streaming platforms. But that was kind of the beginning of it. After that, we had some lineup changes. I know everyone knows the song and dance that goes with that, but sometimes it takes a while to find the right fit. Personality wise or creatively, I guess. And I mean, John and I, the vocalist, John and I grew really close early on just because we bonded over you called it West Coast brutal death metal, basically. I mean, nerding out over Disgorge, who's the best Disgorge vocalist? They're all amazing. You can't pick one, obviously, but just stuff like that. Like, we kind of just immediately knew that even though what was popular at the time and what we were originally kind of being pushed toward by our original drummer was like more of a beat down deathcore kind of informed style. I mean, that wasn't really what was close to our hearts, John and I. Like, we wanted to make the nastiest, fastest, gnarliest, brutalist music that we could without really caring about what was going to sell or the trends or like getting streaming numbers. Because I mean, let's be honest. Anyone that plays real brutal death metal knows it's not going to make you famous.
Never.
Make you rich. You're not going to make a ton of money doing it. So the only real reason to do it is if you love it. And you.
Well, yeah, it doesn't make you financially rich. It makes you rich in other ways, though. Like, I'm doing a show about the genre that I started contributing to 20 plus years ago, and I'm still in love with it just because it is a true like relationship that we're building with this bubble of people that everybody else gets it, dude. Everybody else in our bubble gets what we're doing here, and so again, you want to, all of us want to not only contribute to it, but yeah, you were saying close to our hearts, what we love. It's like we've all been in it because of the love for this. It's never been like a cash cow for any of us. I think I purchased luggage off of a check that I got from Severed Savior, and I thought I was fucking sick, dude. I was like, I was going to Hawaii like in like a month or two after that, and I was like, dude, I got a check that is buying me new luggage for this trip, and I was like, fuck yeah, dude. That's literally something that I never was expecting coming for the first, but that, like, dude, I'm not even looking for that. I don't get paid from this. We don't get paid from this show either. This is all done because we just love this shit. That's it.
Hell yeah.
And expression too. I mean, there's got to be other genres that, but I don't know, dude. This is another thing too I was thinking about, and I know we were supposed to do plugs and all this kind of shit, but I'm now rambling and I got a thought. So what? So let me articulate this. The fact that we all can meet on one level quickly in death metal, and there is this like deep connection to it. Now I'm actually kind of forgetting my line of thought right there, because I had this deep thought that I was having this week about our relationship to this music, but in this art.
You know what?
Yeah.
So I'll say really quick. I'm doing a Joel thing, and I recommend to all the listeners, like, just like put on Bludgeoned right now, like, you can put on low volume, like in the background, as like a palette behind this podcast. Like, I recommend it. It's dope. I can hear everything you're saying, and I'm just like,
No, I completely lost it. So now we need to just keep going. So I'll find it again, because I definitely was like, I need to mention something about this on the show, so it'll come up naturally.
I'll talk about Bludgeoned for a sec.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, it's a sick lineup, and I met you guys, and I forget your bassist name, unfortunately, but he was very, very kind at the show. Steve,
yeah.
Hell yeah. And I mean, you've got Nick Hill, who's here in the fucking YouTube chat right now. He's like, wonderkind drummer extraordinaire. He's 18, I think.
Yeah, he'll be 19 next month, I believe, if you're not too long.
I mean, yeah, he's already done Putridity and tours, recorded with Bludgeon and other bands. Just on the come up. And then you've got Jonathan Huber, who blew me fucking away live as just as powerful a vocalist as I've ever seen, destroying this tiny stage in Seaside, California.
Very brutal vocals.
It was so sick. And then he reminded me that he was with Pathology when I saw Pathology live 10 years ago in Santa Cruz. I think, did Son of Aurelius play that show as well? Some other band we're connected to played that show besides Pathology. But yeah, it's just like a killer lineup to be kind of like teaming up to make this kind of music. Is very sick. And then you guys covered Wombful of Scabs, the Disgorge classic, right in front of me, so I got to watch you guys play a song that I play.
That's
and
cool. Even got to do some background vocals. I don't know if you saw the video, true. John hands in the mic for the high screen.
I did it as a low though. I was too nervous to go high. The Wombful of Scabs. That was actually the only time anyone's ever. Well, I used to sing.
It was sick as fuck, dude.
I used to sing for a band in college. I did like death metal vocals. Like we covered like nothing crazy like Amon Amarth type stuff, but it's been a while, so that was cool to do that again.
Nice.
So it was just a great show, and
fuck yeah.
So that's what I wanted to say, just to exuberantly praise the guest as we do.
Thank you, kind sir. Thank you.
No doubt. All right, let's just jump into the plugs here. BattleForgeCoffee.com. That's always up top. The homies and Deeds of Flesh. We love that company. There might be some stuff to talk about in the distant future, but I'll leave it at that. Other than that, go there and buy your coffee and get your shirts and mugs and all their great swag that they got. CaliDeathPodcast.BigCartel.com. A couple of t-shirts there. I say this is the only way you could support the podcast. I thought about this week too. Why do I always say that when really you could go there, buy a t-shirt, but really just tell your friends, dude. Support us. Hit the like buttons, hit the subscribe buttons. All that stuff is
like contributing. Hey guys, have you guys heard of the Cali Death Podcast?
Yeah, dude. Maybe
it's so cool.
Yeah. Maybe we should go old school and have people start passing flyers out at shows and shit too. That would be kind of cool. Like go old school physical like that. But it's subscriptions and likes and comments and all that stuff. Just the way that the weird AI algorithms of the 2024 now, goddamn. You got to fight against that stuff, and it's those likes, subscriptions, comments, all that kind of shit.
It's like even though like we don't make money on the podcast and we don't care, like we'd like it though. I'd like this to be like my real background. Like I want that piano background.
Come on, guys. I think the truth is
make my dreams come true. Come on, let's do this.
The truth is that we've seen the response to the show over the last 3 years, and we get a genuine response from the homies that are listening to this with us every week, and I just think that and we've gotten some really crazy messages too, that about very personal things, and just to say that we know that it makes an impact on a certain amount of people, so why not get it to more people that might also, it might make an impact. There's got to be somebody on out of 160, and I'm just saying that this thing grows the same amount every week. We're not on what it is right now, the way we could not promote this at all and not care because it just keeps going. But I'm saying, you know, likes and subscribes and all that might get it to some other people who are just like you that would, you know, benefit from this, because now we're on 163. I think that it's almost guaranteed somebody in the metal community is going to find somebody we talk to and want to hear from them. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, all right, enough of the. I've overplugged this show already. I feel like that. Twitch.tv/Cali podcast version 2.
Gotta watch our show. How are you watching it?
I just feel weird that because I don't do that. That's what's funny about it, is that I don't do that so much that when I do it, it feels weird. But twitch.tv/Cali Death Podcast is where we do it live every Thursday.
Right now, here and now. All right.
Yep.
Shows that you want to throw out, Professor?
Yeah, I'm gonna run the usual. I got Gulf Coast Death Fest coming up in March. Shout out. Yeah, where are you on that, Sean? I want to see you.
We should be on it. I wish. I mean, I think they'd hit us up to play it last year, but we couldn't make it happen then. But I hope to play it in the future for sure.
I think it's that green logo. Oh
yeah. Followed by New Jersey, mid-March, March 15th.
Nice.
And then there will be a tour for another band after that. And then I also want to plug a band I actually announced I'm joining as a session drummer for last week. I joined and I didn't make the announcement last episode, but it's called Parasitic Septicity. It has Daniel Benavides, I think it's his last name. He played in Vile for like a very recent Texas show or set of shows. But he's just a killer guitarist, and he's got this band, and we have a homie named Sebastian from, I think, the Colombian scene, who I just talked to today for the first time doing vocals. It's kind of like he's assembling his musicians to bring his thing to life, and I just tracked drums for the first song. And it's fucking super brutal, like the heaviest, most brutal shit I've ever recorded. Like, it's definitely like Disgorged downstream, like Pathology, brutal, heavy, technical. So I'm very psyched on it. So I'm shouting that one out for now.
Nice.
Sick.
Fuck yeah.
All right.
And also, if you need session drums, hit me up. I'm cheap.
Jesus.
And I got the studio set up.
I'm announcing I'm in another band. It's like, oh really? Like, what's it called? It's like, you know, that's awesome.
Yeah, here.
I want to hear it. That's sick, dude.
Just follow me and on the gram, and I'll post a clip pretty soon. So
hell yeah, nice.
And generatorrehearsalstudios.com, SoCal that's where you're gonna jam from now on. If you're listening to the show and you're in the SoCal area. Boom. Yeah. Sean, where do you want people to go for Bludgeoned and Violence Only information, merch, and otherwise?
Well, right now the best place for Violence Only is the Facebook page, because I'm pretty sure that's all we have right now. But we got Instagram coming, we got all the usual suspects coming. So you'll be able to get all the info right now on Facebook. But as far as Bludgeon goes, we're on Facebook. We're also on Instagram. So at Bludgeoned Official is the best place to find all things related to us. I think there's probably a LinkedIn link in there somewhere, link tree, my bad. But we don't have any merch going right now, since we basically, unlike a lot of bands, we're like extremely DIY to the point where we pay for every single merch order up front. We don't, we pay like straight cash. So until we save up all the money, we don't do pre-orders or anything like that. We get the merch, we sell it, and then close the store. Is it smart business-wise? I don't know. Probably not, but I mean, that's just how we've been doing it until some label decides to take mercy on us and bring us into the fold with this new full length that we've got coming out. But we'll talk more about that later. But yeah, Bludgeoned Official on Instagram, best place to find info for that. And then Facebook for Violence Only. If you search, I'm pretty sure we're the only one on Facebook. So yeah, there's that.
Right on. All right. Well, let's dig into you, sir. You're the one in the spotlight.
Let's go. Let's go.
So, how old are you?
I am 34 years old right now. Turning
right.
35 in March.
Okay. So, throw us in the time machine, dude. Take us back to childhood. What was that all about? Art, creativity. When did that come about? Were your parents creative people or not? You know, just give us the lowdown, the baseline.
Fair enough. All right, so I guess we'll start with my folks. My mom is like the musical one, I guess, of the two. And she was always playing piano growing up and singing in church, stuff like that. My dad, although he wasn't quite as musical, he was big into rock and roll music when he was a kid, and often regaled me with stories of seeing Led Zeppelin in concert and pretty much just like all the good classic rock of back in the day. He even got down with some more contemporary stuff like Rage Against the Machine and just like good music from back in the day, before Pro Tools and all the editing and all the the stuff that's sort of has overtaken and plagued modern music. Everything's quantized and auto-tuned now, but growing up with that older music and going to high school when I did, sorry to kind of jump around the timeline here, but
no, it's all good, dude.
I mean, when I started high school, that was 2003. I mean, think about all the death metal that was coming out in that time, like
Right.
Piece of Flesh. Like, I mean, that was like right smack dab in the golden era of brutal death metal. Like, that was before the big wave of deathcore kind of came and took over. Like Suicide Silence, like I Declare War, all that stuff kind of started more toward the end of high school for me, like 2007, when that kind of, I mean, that really took off and kids went crazy for it. That's cool and all, but out of all my friends growing up, and I wasn't into metal when I was younger. I was more of a pop punk, Blink-182 kind of kid when in middle school and stuff. But I mean, come high school, about sophomore year, so I started playing guitar, and then it's when I also met some friends that turned me on to like way heavier stuff than anything I'd ever heard. Like,
dude, so let's I know you said this, sorry for jumping the timeline, but now I want to get to that, but I do want to hear about what was playing in the background. I know your dad was listening to rock and stuff, but talk about that time where you heard something at a young age that you connected to.
Oh man. Well, I think one of the first ones I discovered by myself was like I was reading some like strategy guide to like an old Star Wars game or something. It was like TIE Fighter on PC or something like that, way back in the early '90s. But the author mentioned Jimi Hendrix and it was like said he was like this. It made some analogy. He was the sickest guitar player ever. So I had to like kind of seek out his music and look it up. And like I'd never seen. I know it's kind of stereotypical, right? Like metal guy sees someone light a guitar on fire, like break stuff, and also shred crazy stuff behind his back and do all this. Like, so it was just a mixture of like skill and bravado, but also this like crazy, like self-destructive negativity
and theatric kind of,
all that, like, man, to a young brain, it's just like you're just enamored by it, and like you're like that's like that's the coolest stuff I've ever seen. And then like going on to be like, who else can shred guitar really good? Discovered Van Halen that way. When I was a kid, the first time I ever heard like Pantera's music and like heard Dimebag play guitar, I was like, oh my god! Like I was absolutely blown away by that. So there was definitely
the home videos too, the Pantera home videos. Remember those, dude?
Oh yeah.
Oh man, I can't even remember how many times I've listened or watched that, dude. There's the 4 of them, right? There's 4 different home videos, I think.
Something.
I'm a little rusty on my Pantera lore right now, honestly.
My friends had them. I watched them once or twice.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate that band kind of revealed that it was like, I don't know, like when you're a kid, you don't see all the imagery and the stuff. Like, I don't know, when I was a kid, I didn't realize that like having a Confederate flag guitar was weird. But now that I'm older, I'm like, yay, like,
right. No, that is totally true. That's another thing
future.
too. It was it wasn't something that I naturally didn't really look at it as, but I mean, we're white people, dude. So it's like, it's a weird, and I honestly didn't pay attention too much in history class to understand how bad that flag, is today. So I know that's a hot topic right now. It's always
same with
been a
Slayer,
hot topic.
with Slayer too. Like Slayer kind of was in hot water too, like collecting like the Nazi memorabilia, and there was topic of their subject matter and stuff. But like, it's one of those things where when you're, again, I was a kid, you automatically separate the art from the artist, and you just hear the music, and you're like, this is really sick. Like,
yeah, dude. And then I'd go and watch monster movies, which also wasn't real. Like, all of the entertainment that came in was like not real technically, because I don't know, just the way you perceive it as a young kid is, it's all outside of you, and you're just taking it all in. You're like, what the fuck, all this crazy shit's coming at you, and but it yeah, so things get in there, and yeah, obviously the Confederate flag thing, the Phil thing, like all that has definitely tarnished the Pantera name. It's never going away. That has surfaced again. Every time Phil gets popular in the headlines, then that starts to come out again. He fucked up, and yeah, there's weird shit to it. So it's like, all I'm saying is I didn't know all about that before I fell in love with that band. You know what I'm saying? I just was listening to Cowboys from Hell and hearing some fucking cool melodic fucking heavy riffs, and just that made me want to fucking bang my head. And Phil's vocals were singing some catchy shit that I wanted to sing over Dimebag's riffs, and Vinnie Paul was being a badass, and Rex was fucking getting down, and I was just like, that it was pure at that point. And then culture and situations happen, and things get tarnished, dude. I think that nothing can truly stay the same.
But it's not tarnished like Michael Jackson tarnished.
Yeah. See, that's
I was going there, huh?
Yes, that's a different kind. That's a different kind of tarnish that you can't fucking wash
kind of
off.
Tarnished for sure. Yeah, you can't wash that off.
Yeah,
that's it's sticky, dude.
No, for sure. So that's what I'm saying. But I mean, in reality, even low key, anything that it was golden at one point is going to tarnish, and but some things tarnish in a more ugly way,
Yeah. I mean, all I can say is, with anything like that, you just take anything positive that you learn from the band. Like, if you learn some pentatonic scale licks, or like something of intrinsic value from listening to a band like Pantera, then it's a win still. Like, I mean, you don't have to take the hateful ideology or any of that stuff. I mean, as long as you can assess the band rationally, like I said, just try to take the good stuff from it. Like, I mean, there's definitely some valuable things I learned about playing guitar just from watching Dime's fingers and his wrists. I mean, he had some of the best technique out there. Even Steve Vai would say so. Like, so, I mean, that's neither here nor there.
I mean, yeah, I think we're all fans.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think that the art it's another one of those, like, separating the art from the artist. But when you make music visual and then symbols are used, they're attached to the music, and then things get a little fucking weird. If you're making certain statements, like a more extreme version of that would be National Socialistic black metal, where they just go full on. They go full into that whole thing. Like, what's more evil than Satan? Hate for every other human besides the people of my heritage, and all this kind of shit. So it's just, I think that I was naive, to just make our point again on Pantera, because definitely don't listen to any National Socialistic black metal. Fuck that.
Yeah,
shit.
that's a
Fuck
no.
Those people.
That's a no for me, dog.
That's a big no for me as well. And but I am a person who grew up on Pantera and now has to explain myself in the fact that I grew up on Pantera while those symbols were stirred up into it, you know? And I didn't align with any of those symbols. I just liked fucking the music, dude. That's it. And I don't think there's any real, and maybe somebody can point something out to me, but there's nothing actually racist about the music itself. There might be some Phil lyrics that I should have read but I don't know. I don't think there is. But yeah. All right. That was a big long Pantera thing that I didn't realize we were gonna get into.
The positive thing is that eventually, you know, that musically even it wasn't enough to satisfy my like growing addiction to like heaviness and like wanting things to get more extreme. Like, and so enter, you know, getting my subscription to Guitar World and then finding out about this band called the Dillinger Escape Plan that was like name dropping bands like Necrophagist. Granted, I was like 16 years old. I had just started playing guitar. You know, I thought Dillinger Escape Plan was the craziest, most technical thing I'd ever heard. And then their guitar player's like, check out Epitaph, this CD by this band. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to check this out. Put on the headphones and I'm like, oh my God. Like, it was like my mind completely melted like that.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, fucking Christian, dude, what the fuck?
Yeah,
that solo video this week. Yeah.
Isn't there like the second one? Was it a different solo or is it the same one?
No, I saw the Epitaph solo, right? That he posted.
Is it just one, or is there two solos? Just one.
I think it was just one, but
yeah, dude.
So clean.
Yeah, it's like it's all sick. Oh man,
it's crazy. He was only like 19 or 20 when he recorded that, right? Yeah.
And again, that was in the era before all the Pro Tools, all the editing. Like you couldn't just go like move around clean guitar stems the way you can now.
I would push back. I think that's the album that kind of started all that, to be honest.
You think they were? You think so?
Yeah,
because it sounds literally so perfect that it's like.
Okay, so
it sounds edited.
Albums around that time that were able to do things like that.
I've heard it from reputable sources that whole album is like 2 notes at a time, basically. Very chopped. Yeah.
I wouldn't be
my thing with that is like, okay,
recording technique. I mean, it's you can arguable if you agree with it or not, but that is just it's like filming or something. It's like saying, oh well, they did the scene and they did this, they cut the scene like too many cuts or something. You know, you're like at the end, it's just a scene. You know,
yeah.
But if they play it live and they can, who cares? You know.
Well, in however many cuts the film takes to make it a better film. That's the whole point. They're trying to make the best film. Well,
and you don't even care if
in our situation, we're trying to make the best album whenever, you know, with whatever we have as our resource to freeze that art in time. You know, it's basically an artist painting a picture over and over and over again at practice, and then okay, here's the one that's finally gonna like go out, and then there's no other way we can repaint that painting live on stage, but everybody's gonna know this one painting, you know. Like think of Casey as like a Bob Ross guy who goes on tour, and there's this one famous painting that got super famous, and everybody wants to see him repaint it. And on his off nights or whatever, his trees might not be as flourishing, you know, or his
crowd. You're like on a stage at like, you know, some like club, and you're up there with like fucking, you know, an easel or whatever.
And you're like, you had the best,
like bigging, and you're like painting this, like,
and you had the best painting this one painting that everybody got freaked out on, and everybody wants you to replicate it on stage. But then some nights, you know, your trees are better than that other painting, or your mountains look farther away, and you know, it's just like different things. It's there, but like replicating the one thing that everybody wants.
I don't want to take up too much time, but I just want to say really fast, I think it would be kind of refreshing. I'm sure bands do this, but like in this specific kind of death metal, death melodic, necrophagisty context, whatever, like bands like that or Obscura or whatever, all these bands, like we're kind of sick if it was more like, correct me if there's bands that do this, but like every time they play, it's like different solos. Like it's just not the same
Zappa.
solo. Yeah, or like Jimi
What
Hendrix.
about does Martyr play the same solos every time? Did they improvise
Did they
at all?
switch it up?
They
I can't confirm. I've never seen them live.
Yeah, I mean, but I also like hearing the solos that are like, I mean, maybe just like, or even like do like a Randy Rhoads type thing where it's like you know, the live Randy Rhoads like that like famous record where he's like Ozzy's holding him up, you know, the tribute one. Like all the different solos are like the albums, but like way different, and like he's like perfectly recreates them, but also like quotes the right parts and like and it accentuates them and like just rips his own solos to shreds. Like it's super crazy, like to be able to like recreate your own thing and do it way better and be like ha ha ha, and like Jesus, dude. You know? But, like, so I don't know. Like I just kind of would be kind of cool if like people did that more like in death metal, where it's not just like oh, I hit the wrong fret, like I did it, I fucked it up. Like it's like it's like that's like classical music or something where it's like everything's exactly the same notes, you know. But
exactly,
like
it's like it's a composition versus like jazz, where it's like an expression.
But you're not playing to sheet music, you're not playing with you're not doing any of that. So it's like you're in a more almost like a jazz, blues, rock context, anyways. Playing metal that comes from that, really, anyways. And so like even though we play the minor scale, we do these patterns that sound like classical. Really, the context is more, you know, in a jazz, like the guitar you're playing, dude, like it's electric guitar, like, you know, you can I don't know, it's just like I just feel like sometimes that'd be so cool to like, I would love to go to a show and see like Christian just improvise, like do these solos way different, and you're like, whoa, tonight was nuts, dude, you should have seen. And there's like live, they'd be like, oh, like the live version of that one night where he did the solo, like the jazz guys have, you know. Like, oh, that I don't know, it's dorky, but it's
it depends on the player. I guess it depends on the player and their motivation, you know. There's one that just wants to like nail the same thing every time, or you know, there's the guy that,
I mean, everybody does that,
the jazz guy, or the, you know, Zappa's thing was he would go out on tour with all the songs that he was about to record on an album, and then every night he'd record the sets, and he would just, you know, freestyle shred in his solo sections of every song that he was going to go on that album, and compiled all of those and picked the best one out of those, and that was the one that went on to the studio album. I don't know if he did that for every album, but I know that was like a common thing that I read in his book, that's how he would do his solos. His solos on the albums were actually picked out of live performances on a tour before that album was recorded.
Nice. What is this about, Phil?
Oh yeah, Phil, he improvises some solos live. Like,
oh, okay, there we go. That's the guy.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what they called in. Sorry.
Oh yeah, no, go ahead.
I was just going to say real quick, they do have improvised soloing in classical music too, and it's called a cadenza. It would be the Italian word for it.
Oh, okay.
They would expect the performer to come up with their own, you know, improvised form. But of course, since they didn't have recordings back then, the composer would always like write one out on the sheet music, like a sample one. But the actual performer was expected to improvise.
I've never knew about that. That's actually
I've heard of that, and I don't. I've just that term is just never.
Say it again.
Before cadenza.
Cadenza.
I just never hear that. You never hear that. Why is that? You know, that's the thing. Is I mean, maybe just doing jazz stuff, but like, I don't know. Classical was just.
I don't know. It sounds like a balcony or something. Like I'm hanging out on my cadenza in my backyard.
Dude, I got these new lights up in my cadenza.
Kind of does sound like that.
Watch the Italian sunset on my cadenza, dude.
Oh wow, cool. Well, I mean, yeah, dude. I mean, and all the crazy classical composers and, you know, all the famous people, those guys could shred or could improvise for days and create crazy stuff. Like it was just like, and you know, kind of like when you're writing music anyways, you kind of are improvising, you know, like you have to improvise to compose, really, at least to some degree, like even if it's little pieces, but you have to be able to, you know.
All right, confession time. All right, how many of you guys, along with myself, when you're writing metal music, you're literally improvising every riff to the point where, like, after the song is done, you don't even know how to play it yet. Like, I have to go learn the song, like, after I finish recording it, basically.
It's like plunging into a jungle with the machete and just like, wait, how do I get back? You know,
and then finding your way back, following the trail.
Like, how do I get back? Yeah.
I guess I'm not a riff maker, so
it's called Guitar Pro is how you do it.
I guess you could, but that's just one form of trying to write. You could that's like another metaphor would be like a comedian writing a joke on stage versus sitting down in front of a computer and trying to word out. I'm going to say this, and then you say it naturally, and that's writing on the stage. So you're writing in the moment of just trying to catch a vibe, catch a wavelength, and your fingers hopefully translate some kind of thing that's being transmitted into you from somewhere else, dude.
It's got to come from the subconscious, that's just how I feel about it. Like if I put too much conscious effort into like coming up with parts, it usually just doesn't have the same emotional depth, I guess. Totally. It's got to come from like a deep subconscious place to where like you just hit record and then like you play the thing, you're like, oh shit, that was the one. Like when I sit down in front of the screen, I'm like, it is not the same,
Oh really? Yeah. I think it's all about just how you can put it down, whether it's like memory or writing it down or on a computer, however you're like just kind of storing the data, and like I think for at least in the Joseph, I want to hear what you have to say too, but I think for me, like the process, at least for me, and I'm not the greatest songwriter and nothing like that, but I just like I play guitar just to help write stuff, and I like I'll just I'll like jam around and then come up with. I mean, this is just probably super common. I just jam around and I try different weird things, and I come up with a little pattern that I like. Okay, that I want to like at least put that as like a template or capture that like framework, and then just like I put it in Guitar Pro just because for me it's easy to write around that. I can add drums and all that bullshit, but basically like it's like a riff, kind of wrap it around to like some kind of you have to be able to kind of capture it, like it's like this like fleeting thing, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna capture that, and then like put that down, and then you can kind of add more, and then you kind of like once you have more pieces, you like can build on this frame. It's like you're building a structure,
right?
But yeah, you're so that's all for me. That's how it works.
You're going into a trance to hopefully come back with an artifact, dude, and then you compile your artifacts that have literally come from a different dimension that have physically come into our space. That's literally what's happening, dude.
Yeah, exactly that. What
you're said. Indiana Jones in another dimension coming back with little artifacts, dude, and making
we all have our takes
them in the perfect way to where
what's yours, Joseph?
Odious Modern album.
We all have our takes on the same idea, and for mine it's like it's modular. Like you have these small parts that you can like play, and you kind of put them together, and then it creates like a big thing that you can't do by itself right away. You have to like learn that thing, but like each little thing that you added you could like play in the moment. So it's not like things you write are like literally unplayable. It's just like you only write small parts, and learning the whole section together is like a whole extra thing. It's like the performance rather than the composition. So yeah, that's my take.
I love that. And just to add to that, like it's like really cool to write something that you like really like and you're all proud of it, and then you're like, fuck, but I can't play it like really well like yet. Like
that is a sick one. Yeah,
it's an interesting, and that was like the early days with Guitar Pro, and we're like, oh cool. Like I remember I like wrote this one song like way back when we first got Guitar Pro 5. It was like an odious thing, and it was some new after Cryptic something, and I like showed it to or whatever time frame it was. I showed it to David and Dan or whatever, and they're just like, dude, no, I can't fucking play it. It's like it's all over the place, like these weird sweepy things, and it was just like it was early of Dissonant, that song, like an early version of it. But Dissonant, whatever, who gives a fuck? The point is that it was just,
I know what it is.
It was like super, it was all fast, and like it was just basically like Inhuman or something, like some part, and they were just like, fuck you, dude, they can't play that.
Okay. So on the topic of hard to play and editing, all the stuff we were just talking about, Decrepit Birth and Time Begins. I mean, that was really the one after discovering Necrophagus that really sent me down the true path of brutal death metal over tech death, because tech death eventually the mids and stuff just becomes kind of obnoxious, at least in my ear, and the black and white palm mute open, and eventually I wanted to hear nothing but bands like Defeated Sanity, where it's like palm mute all the time, or like palm mute slightly less. There's like 100 different degrees of palm muting that it's like
Mhm.
happening. It's like the infinite depth of it all, and same with Disgorge too. It's just like eventually it's just as technical and extreme, but in a way that's like way more like this instead of like just that is my take on it.
Dude. I love that.
I think that and Disgorge blurred the lines of a lot of things that were happening too. If we're gonna keep mentioning Disgorge as a pioneer in this shit, I think that they, like when things were very organized, Disgorge was like, nah, dude, we're gonna bleed outside of each one of these lines you guys have set up and make this like more fuller, denser, deeper, more expanded version of what is happening, you know? And that's where I think like the tech really started. I guess Deeds was really tech though too. Even in the earlier days when you listen to some of the drumming on those earlier records, dude, I think that, and Deprecated too. I think there's this like wave that's happening in those records versus a straight linear line. You know what I'm saying?
I think all those guys were clued in that like if you're trying to be sick, like truly sick and like blow people's minds, like chugging is sick, like tremoloing is sick, but like you have to add something that you can't really follow on first listen. You have to get technical and have you go through multiple iterations of trying to figure it out. And that's what like truly catches the listener, who's not just like the average slam enjoyer, that the guy who like cares about something beyond just the groove. So yeah, I think they were all clued into that. Like all the classic bands have at least a few passages or hopefully more passages. And like all of Inbreeding by Deeds of Flesh is they were just going down that route, like as far into the labyrinth as possible. So
yeah, I think it's like just rad having all kinds of different flavors. It's like cooking and shit. Like you got, oh shit, yeah, I'm gonna do like this flavor. And it's like you gotta have the palette of all these different things. And like that's what is really, you know, like super valuable about like any art, or especially in this case bands and music, like how they're different, but they're also similar. You know what I mean? So it's like Suffocation versus Deeds of Flesh is so different than Disgorge versus like, but even considering bands from certain areas that are like the same, you know, geographic, like, you know, California, Deeds of Flesh, and like Deeds of Flesh is actually quite different from Disgorge, you know, like very different, you know, that's what we're talking about. Yeah. And like, and of course, and then there's bands where you can like, okay, there's elements and they mix this and mix that, but like each band really has its own like,
if every Cali
is totally different. Separate Saviors, I mean, they're similar to the outside ear, but like to us, they're like very different.
I think that if you're gonna make a Cali death metal milkshake or smoothie, Deeds of Flesh and Disgorge are kind of like the base, the first two ingredients you throw in the blender, and then you start to add your own flair to it.
Deeds is like the yogurt, Disgorge is the banana.
Yeah, but like depending on how much. Wait, what's that?
Then what's
Severed
the
is
powder?
A little Mike Gilbert, you know.
Okay.
Yeah. Mike's in the spice cabinet.
Spice cabinet.
Shout out to Mike Gilbert getting the job playing for Cynic though. That's fucking crazy.
Oh, shout out.
Yeah, dude. I know, dude. So it's a long time coming for this. I mean, this is you know, behind the scenes, the Cali Death crew has known about this for quite some time. I mean, it all started bubbling up on the 2-year anniversary episode. That's when they met, and it just snowballed from there. Casey, you know, homies with Paul, me, homies with Paul, and that performance that Mike did on that. Anybody who hasn't seen the 2-year episode, go back to see. You could see the beginnings of literally Mike Gilbert being announced in the band today. The beginnings of that happened that episode right there, and he got to play a Cynic song for Paul, and it just snowballed very quick after that. Shout out Paul Masvidal.
It's fucking awesome.
It's a perfect. It would think about joining your favorite band, guys. just think about joining your favorite band of all time that you've had for decades, and
like Iron Maiden or something.
Right. That's Gilbert right now, dude. And we love him to death, dude, and he deserves it all, dude. Shout out to Gilbert for always letting me do it from his house. He's out of capacity, right? Out of capacity. I don't even know what I'm trying to say right now. I couldn't do it this week, but it's all good. Either way, Gilbert is the fucking man. He's always been the man. He deserves every single shred of this, and yeah, kudos to Cynic.
Man, that's like
awesome.
That's like next week, right? Like, damn, I wish I was going.
I know.
I'm trying to get the flyer, and I'm like waiting for this.
I was actually tempted to look at airplane tickets. I could probably get down there for like $400. It's kind of crazy, but it's almost still like I gotta see Mike live with Cynic, dude.
I have a prior commitment. I'm going up to the Bay Area, but I'm like, oh man. Well,
yeah,
enjoy everybody.
Y'all are closer.
It's the Kiesel, by the way, for people who.
Yeah, I'm about to post it. I'm trying to get the flyer on the thing, man. Hold on a second.
Yeah, Kiesel. They're hosting their like.
Ian may be there, dude. Shout out to Ian in the chat. Sick German Magazine, the homie, always hanging with us every Thursday. Sick, dude. If you're there, dude, it'd be so rad to get some footage, even if it's just some decent phone footage, dude. And we'll do an exclusive Cali Death watch along.
Hell yeah!
If you could do that, dude.
Yeah, I just want to keep singing Mike's praises. I mean, the dude is like the best kept secret of like the Cali Death scene, as far as like, you know, we all know how sick he is. Like, he's been one of my main guitar heroes since I was a freaking teenager, posting on SMN News, like the Crypto forums back in the day. He's the reason I play Jackson guitars. I wanted to get an Engel amp for the longest time. He never could afford one, but he's the man. I mean, we all know him for the Jedi grind, like picking technique and all that crazy shit. But he can play every style of music that there freaking is. I mean, from jazz to flamenco, Cynic, obviously.
And he's super humble too, dude. He'll never like sit there and be like, "I'm sick." He'll just fucking show you that he's sick, you know. And then
he'll show you the SR-71 Blackbird drawings that he can't stop imagining in his head. You guys know about that?
Say it again. You cut out.
Mike Gilbert has this thing. He told me back then. I don't know if it still happens to him, but like in his mind, it's continuously drawing a picture of an SR-71 Blackbird, like airplane. Like
that sounds accurate. That sounds very accurate.
It's been a constant thing like his whole life. He said he just can't stop thinking about it.
Weird.
Yeah, I've had plenty of conversations with Mike that definitely show that, you know, I mean, it probably is one of those things that's been with him since he was a kid. You know, he probably got a replica plane or something like that when he was a kid, and that you know, planes stick with people, trains stick with people.
All right.
So one more great thing about Gilbert is that he built Lego Star Wars fighter jet. I don't know what it's called. I guarantee he knows exactly what it's called. And he had it on display, and he was just like, you know what, dude? Here you go, dude. Give this to your kids, dude. Already built, ready to go. This decent sized Lego Star Wars plane. So I mean, that just also feeds into his planes. But that's the kind of guy Gilbert is, dude. He I love him to death, dude. That's my bro. And I'm so happy for him with this flyer. That if you're watching this right now, Kiesel is having like an event kind of around NAMM, isn't it? Isn't it kind of
it's the same weekend as NAMM, and they're doing a whole deal here. It's like a daytime thing on the 27th, next Saturday, I guess. And we all registered and are gonna go and stuff, a bunch of us. Cynic's gonna headline at 4, and there's like Devin Townsend is playing like at 11. At Scott Carstairs is playing at like 10. Fucking
wait,
dude.
So you're going, Casey?
Hell yeah, I'm fucking going.
I missed you saying that, dude. I thought nobody was gonna be there. I was
dude, it's like I live like really close to here. Like this is
man,
Escondido,
I'm
like
so
right by.
happy for you and jealous at the same time, dude.
Oh man, well, it's gonna be awesome. Yeah. So and it was kind of announced quickly. Oh shit, you gotta like sign up. And there's like shop tours and you go check out the guitars. Paul just announced, like his endorsement, I guess, with Kiesel, whatever.
Yeah.
And all kinds of shit. But I've never even seen Devin Townsend play. I love his music, and I'm like very
you're in for a
excited
treat,
to
dude.
hang out with him or whatever. I mean, he's gonna be right there, and this is gonna be fucking sick as fuck. I was talking to Paul and the dudes, and of course Mike, and I'm super excited to see him play with them. And we're gonna try to go hang out afterwards at like probably Stone Brewery over there in Escondido, or something like that. I think that's kind of the plan. But it ends at like 5. It ends kind of early, so.
Oh, it's like a day thing. Oh, okay.
yeah, it's gonna be sick as fuck though, dude.
I mean,
and also Dean
you
Lamb,
said register so nobody else can get in. It's
I don't know if it's full yet, but it's on their
okay.
website. It's what is it? KieselConnect.com.
Well, if you're in the SoCal area, and check it out, dude. And also, if you're going to NAMM and you didn't realize, check this out.
It's the NAMM alternative for San Diego.
Yeah, well, I mean, if I was a NAMM goer and then this was happening, I think I'd spend some time over there watching a few of those bands and then go back to NAMM.
Yeah. All right, how do I get rid of this thing?
So we need to.
All right, back on track.
We need to make some progress on our timeline, dude.
I love these logos. We can just like move over a little bit so we're like not in the logo way,
I'll do that, yeah.
Dude, it's funny. Yeah, like you like hang outside of it.
So let me turn it this way.
It's good. A little bit.
Actually, I mean that would work.
I liked it. No, yeah, just do it for a little bit. It's fun.
All right, we'll leave it up.
This is like the new way we do it, and if it's on, yeah, find our way up. Yeah, the game.
Got my throat slit by the logo here.
Find your way around.
He's all like, yeah.
Each week we have different obstacles to move around.
Now we need to get connect the dots to about 20 years timeline, 15 years of timeline.
Well, I want to talk about more
I'm serious like that.
Getting into playing in general. So what age and what was the first instrument your parents decided to let you try? Because parents are the ones that really my son's doing trumpet, and I'm the one in the house that's like I'll deal with all the missed notes and all that stuff as long as he's progressing. I've dealt with music my whole life, so I'm like, I know I want him to get better, and I know he's not going to be better right away. So yeah, talk about the first introductions to playing music and where was it at in life?
So the very first time I ever got to like mess with the musical instrument, I mean, other than what we had at home, which was basically my mom's out of tune piano that like so out of tune, like couldn't learn how to sing with that or anything like that. But she also had an accordion, being that both of her parents immigrated here from Finland. So like, the traditional Finnish folk music is like basically like polka, and everyone plays it on an accordion and dances around and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, so I couldn't really figure out how to play it though, because I don't know if anyone's ever looked at one or seen an accordion, but like you got like a regular keyboard on one side, and then the other side there's like 100 of these little buttons that like you have to like trigger different combinations to play bass.
Well, I never knew So what is the function of those
actually.
Buttons, dude? So what do those do exactly? Do you know?
You have to ask my mom. Yeah.
I can tell you.
All right, let's do it.
But first, I want to go on the record. I'm anti-accordion. My family member had a bumper sticker that said "Play an accordion, go to jail. It's the law." And
I was about to go on record as pro accordion. God damn, we got a fucking.
And this is actually one of my hangups with Igor, by the way, is bringing up an older thing. Like I'm not into this vaudeville French bullshit, but anyway.
We're getting raided by somebody. Who are we getting raided by? What's going on here?
Oh, shout out.
We should at least shout out to who's raiding us.
I hope I should talk accordion in front of a lot
I don't
of
even know how this works. I just know that there's.
Watch your words now. Maybe.
What's going on? Is it him?
What up, Scott?
I think Scott
Thanks,
just
brother.
traded us.
Oh, hey man,
dude.
what up,
Fucking-
Scott?
Yo.
Hell yeah,
So,
dude. Thank you.
So an accordion works.
What up, Scott, dude? I'll see you
Yeah,
soon,
there he is.
brother.
Right.
We were just plugging you right before you rated us, bro.
Yeah.
Shit.
Coming soon.
So yeah, so the keys on one side, the piano keyboard, that just plays whatever notes you played, and then the other one just creates a chord. So it's like you always have to play a chord along with whatever note you're playing. I don't think you can. It's not a monophonic. It's like strictly a polyphonic instrument.
Gotcha.
It always produces, and then the whatever note you're playing, like, or whatever button you're pressing, gives all the information of that chord. But the thing is, those buttons, I don't know the actual pattern of how they're laid down, but it's like one button will be like G7 and another button will be like C minor or whatever. Each button would be like E flat, etc.
What the fuck?
Not
dude?
just the name, not just the note, but the
Yeah.
entire chord.
And
Yeah,
again,
yeah.
how does that connect to the keyboard side of it? Is it playing in different? So is it two different
this
things
with the
being played?
baffles. You're like,
So that doesn't do anything for the keyboard. The keyboard doesn't do anything for those buttons. It's two different things in unison.
Yeah, it's two different things, but it
Makes
comes
sense.
out sounding like the same source.
It's
It
like a
sounds
harmony in ways.
Chords and then
Yeah,
playing
you're
the melody.
soloing like over yourself, basically. Like you're providing the accompaniment and then the melody with the other hand. Kinda
So
like
if you're playing like a C sharp button, then you have to play it accordingly on the keyboard in order to be in harmony with your other hand.
Mhm.
yeah.
Ah, trip, dude. That sounds so fucking
there-
confusing and complicated.
Are there different types of accordions that you need to play for different styles of music? Like if it's more chromatic stuff, like the dudes I saw playing with Al Di Meola and like Italian dudes all super fast and crazy. Like, is it the same accordion or are they like playing a different accordion with more?
Well,
John,
so
John, get your mom on the phone, bro. We need to talk to your mom.
Mom, where you at?
okay,
No,
I can.
she's 5 hours away from here.
Oh,
So-
shit.
I
So-
should call her.
It's
I
about
don't
time
know.
for an accordion discussion. Come on.
Yeah, we gotta get her on Cali Death podcast to inform
Actually,
everyone.
to be honest, I'm actually
True.
very interested in this, and I know Joseph has something to say. I'm sorry to jump in on you, but I just with all the weird, or not weird, but alternative instruments that people have talked about on the show. We've had somebody who showed us how to play a sitar. We've had other people talk about other instruments, but we've never had somebody who talked about an accordion. So this is what made my ears perk up and want to listen. And
Yeah.
I'm talking now.
I mean, there's times when accordion can be sick. I know, like in like that like hot club jazz kind of music, like Django Reinhardt and like Jimmy Rosenberg, and that's kind of stuff where it's like super crazy acoustic guitar shredding with a pick.
Mhm.
Accordion's a popular instrument in that kind of music too, and like Balkan folk music as well, where
Yeah.
like the normal time signature for them is like 11/8. That's like their 4/4 basically. So like
Mm.
certain parts of the world it could hear like crazy meters and rhythms is like normal, like compared to like what we're used to. So
Yeah.
always found that kind of interesting, and that getting that kind of exposure to like I guess more world music earlier on in life kind of opened my ears up to like unconventional sounds, I guess. Maybe sort of started leading towards the whole like metal thing because you start hearing stuff that you don't hear on the radio, and you're like you start thinking it's kind of cool. Whereas you show it to anyone else, like Yosef, who's like, check out this accordion, he'd be like, oh, that's terrible. Like, what are you doing? But show someone else, death metal, they'd probably get the same reaction. But we hear it, we're like.
Joseph, I'm sorry I cut you off, dude. You were gonna say
It's
something?
kind of moot at this point. I just know that
okay.
you were asking about like if there are different kinds of accordions for different styles. I don't know the name of the general family that they belong to, but melodicas are the same type, and that's like a little one-handed keyboard that you play with the two. I was actually wondering if Sean, you might have fucked with it when you were like in your reggae era, because I know you played, and I expect we'll talk about that.
I absolutely know how to play melodica and have solo on one live on stage.
I love that you have I love that you have a reggae area that we can get into now, dude.
We'll have to go deep diving into that one later for sure.
The melodica thing, the when the dudes got the hose in their mouth and they're actually using like what they're blowing into it in order to make the noise that you're playing
to produce.
on the keyboard?
It's the airflow that produces the tone. Yeah, and the note you're playing on the keyboard only shapes the air that you're pushing through it. So and that way it's like an accordion, but with accordion the air is being pushed by your hands pushing the thing together and pulling it back. That's like your lungs pushing air. So
yeah.
So there's definitely like the technology for producing notes with a keyboard. You could just take that side, isolate it, kind of like blow it instead, and that's a melodica. There's probably something else you can use for like shreddier type of whatever that class of instrument is. So
is it similar to like vocal cords? Is there strings that what's causing the
it's more like a kazoo type deal, you know?
Just like there's walls set up in a certain way to where when the wind or your wind or the accordion's wind hits it
with the accordion it's like man, I can't think.
Now I'm thinking about fucking bagpipes. I'm thinking
I was gonna say the bag.
So
we have to talk about bagpipes too now because these are all. So what do you call the kind of instrument that's like it's not a wind instrument? It's kind of, but not. You know that's like a.
It's not coming from your lungs.
Yeah, it's like a
answer.
What? Yeah, Joseph, you could tell us what that's called. An instrument that uses check air pressure. Air pressure, dude.
He says, Ian says it's the free reed family.
Wind? Oh, it is wind. Okay. Is it?
It is, because I mean it's not coming from your lungs, but it's the bellows that's pushing wind through the instrument, creating the pitch.
All right. Nice.
Yeah.
But you know, it's like you got like brass and woodwinds and like wind, or like I don't know what the difference between those and wind instruments, but brass and woodwinds are. Is brass a wind instrument or no?
They are. The woodwind is because of the reed. It's like it vibrates, therefore creating the note. Whereas with the brass instrument, you have to use your lips to create an embouchure, like this weird shape to like, and then your lips vibrate together to make the actual pitch,
right?
Like G sharp or whatever. It's super weird, but it's cool though.
So, okay, yeah, interesting. Okay, so but a back, okay, so like an accordion is just like there's no like breath or mouth, like it's just like that's the instrument. But like
just your arms like this, basically.
Exactly.
The bagpipe's like this. You're like.
But don't they have something in their mouth with the bagpipe?
You're right. Actually, they do.
Don't they?
I'm not sure the mechanism
or something.
Yeah, I think is it a dual reed? Is it two reeds like an
air tube?
Oboe? Or maybe it's just you blow air into an instrument. I actually don't know. Air tube. Okay.
Yeah, I'm intrigued by this bagpipe discussion. This is for me.
Yeah.
I'm also not really down with bagpipes. The closest I'll get is the harmonium, which is the Indian version of a accordion, and it's used in like Krishna Das kind of like yoga music, which I fuck with. I'm kind of kidding. I like Balkan music a lot. I like the technicality of it. I have like a visceral, like I'm just not the tonality of an accordion when it's not doing something really cool. It has that grating sensation on my ears.
Yeah.
It's like
you don't like the timbre of it. Okay.
It sounds like polka stuff. You like that?
People say that about saxophone, and I play saxophone, so I know when people say something you're like offended. I'm like, no, fuck you.
Man. There's all the 80s fucking movies, like all the like scenes that was like, oh, the saxophone started, you knew what was about to happen. It's like dude, saxophone's great. No, but like the thing about saxophone that people don't really understand is like, dude, have you ever like played with a saxophone player like right in front of you, or had somebody just shred a saxophone like right in front of you, like on your bed, or like in your room, or like it is like insane. It sounds rad, like right in front of you, or like playing in a little jazz combo. This dude who just is really good. It's fucking so sick. But like on a record, I don't know, it just doesn't have but then it does with the 80s jams, but it's not the same as like live sax. Like those instruments, like you have to feel them, like, or even like a tuba, like, or something, like sitting in front of a tuba, dude, you're just like, what? Like it's a boom, boom, boom. Like you feel it in your whole body. Like, so like those instruments were like physical, like you feel that, you feel, and so like on a record, they translate. And like a lot of instruments translate well on recording, whatever that's, of course, how that's evolved over the years. But like, but it's just like some don't translate the same, you know.
My first ever introduction to the professor, he was playing saxophone in an improv jam.
Oh, that's another example. Oh yeah, duh, exactly.
Yeah, that was literally the first musical video I ever watched of the professor, was him playing saxophone with Diego and Casey.
Yeah, that was fun.
I think I remember that video actually.
Oh yeah,
I think I do remember that one. But what was I about to say? Oh yeah, the sax playing on that. Remember that one Eson solo record, where there's like freaking 8-string guitars and sax. I actually didn't mind that. That actually sounded all right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a great record. That. Yeah, I love that.
But to answer the original way back question, yeah, when I was in band in like 6th grade, going into middle school, my parents asked me before, what instrument do you want to play? You should play one. I was like, can I play the saxophone? Of course, that was my first go-to. Like, I want to, but too expensive. So they're like, how about this clarinet?
That's a good.
It really wasn't for me. This wasn't my thing. Like, I ended up not taking it seriously. I ended up as like last chair, like the worst clarinetist like in all of band. I kept trying to like challenge my way up past these 2 girls that were sitting in front of me. And it was like, of course, it was all chicks in the clarinet side. I was like the only guy. So just like, I was miserable. Eventually, when I got this dental thing, like a retainer or something, and like 7th grade, I used that as my excuse to like, oh, I can't play with this thing in, so I'm done. And just like kind of kicked it to the curb. Yeah. But I much later on, I would like appreciate some of the stuff I learned all those years back in band. Like by the time I picked up a guitar, I didn't even know what a scale was anymore. Like when they introduced like scales and chords, I was like, what the hell is a scale? Like that's how like much I'd forgotten. But later on, I connected the dots like, oh, it's exactly like the things that they made me play on the freaking clarinet. It's on a fretboard now. And then kind of started, synapses started firing and light bulbs started turning on. Yeah, I started figuring it out from that. But I mean, when you're a kid, you don't always appreciate the stuff that your parents are trying to get you to do. I wish I had like taken up piano when I was younger. I didn't start doing that till community college. When I started going there to study music and stuff. Learning that and then doing the ear training stuff was probably far and away the most beneficial stuff I've ever done to advance myself as a musician. Like
ear training, what do you mean?
Like learning how to identify different intervals by ear. So like if I were to play a key on the piano and then play a different key, I'd be like, Anthony, what's the distance between those 2 notes? And you'd be like, oh, that's a flatted 5th or a major 7th or something like that.
Wow, okay.
And then once you can hear the math, basically, that is music, like then you can start to see it in your imagination, like the fretboard patterns start popping in and you start hearing stuff like, instead of melodies you already know from popular songs, like then you might start hearing original melodies of your own start popping in your head, and you'll be able to identify what the intervals are for the training. So
it's gnarly, or the audition things for colleges, like audition tests for that kind of stuff, and they just throw everything at you and it like the different levels, and then like it just gets so insane, but by the end you're like, what, people could do that? You're like, I don't even like know what, and like I remember I did it at SF State, and it was like the classical ear training test, like, and I like went in just kind of like, I had done ear training before, but I sucked at it. And I was like, oh, it's solfege. I got to learn, do, mi, sol, mi, or like all this fucking, and I was just like, fuck, I suck at this so bad. And dude, the test was like, the beginning parts were pretty easy. Like the first part, so they place you, and it was like, okay, it's pretty easy. And then it's just like, by the end, it was like Bach pieces with like 4 species, fucking whatever, or like how, I don't know how 4 different like notes going at the same time or whatever, like counterpoint. And you're just like, I'm just like laughing as I'm doing it. I'm like, this is so insane. Like, how the fuck do people can they just like take a test and hear like 4 different melodic or 4 different notes, interacting together on 4 different points and like write them all out perfectly, like and to hear all that is just like,
it's like a wine sommelier, dude, who could pick out like all the tones of a glass of wine or something like that,
Yeah. It's exactly that. It's like training a sensitive the sensory organ to be super.
I didn't get all into the classical stuff, but you do learn, like you learn how to, like, there's like a technique, there's a way to do it, and we did ear training in a different sense, like on the jazz shit, but it was like still, it was like from a different angle, but the classical focuses a lot on the counterpoint stuff and species counterpoint, like, and so there's like different amounts of notes at the same time, and you have to like identify them all as individual and how they interact with each other. There's rules you're not supposed to break and all this kind of shit of like note directions and interactions. But it's, dude, to be able to just like be that good at it and hear all those things and be able to nail a test like that. Fuck, dude.
I'm gonna break Sean real quick. Every time I look at it's actually
I think you're frozen, bro.
You've actually, out of all the people on the show, I think it's a there it is. Boom.
Oh, he's back.
Oh, he came right back as soon as we said something.
Backstreet's
back. You had a nice little like side smile though.
It was a good like freeze spot, though. How do they always they always seem to freeze in such good moments, or fun. It was like then it like freezes, like it's
too funny.
Good.
What were you gonna say, though?
Dude? I was just gonna say the word species.
By the way, I watched that movie recently and it was great again.
Oh yeah, dude.
Shout out, dude.
But that's crazy that there's species of what? Of when you're talking species in music, what does that mean?
Well, I think he's referring to the SATB, which is like soprano, alto, tenor, and bass. Those are the four voices that you're going to be dealing with when you're the bass obviously is going to be your bass line at the very bottom. The soprano is going to be the like the high voice at the very, very top, and then.
But this is now like personified music for me a little bit more. If you think about it, it's like four voices, species. I'm starting to like.
The species is relating to the counterpoint, like the method of writing or composing or orchestration or the math of like how you're putting this together, the notes.
Voice leading.
Voice leading, exactly. And like Bach stuff, like, okay, so Anthony, like when you hear a classical song and it goes like it's like my hands are getting cut off. Let's say it's like on one ear like do 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 do, and the other ear is all bing, do, 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 and it comes together like together. That's basically what we're talking about. That's
okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes one voice will be going up, the other one's going down at the same time. So this contrast happening, and then they'll come together and meet in the middle, and like all that exciting stuff happens.
That's all it is, dude. I mean, it's not all it is, and that's why like Bach is so genius, and of course everyone after that and whatever. Bach's just like kind of the like
he's the guy,
like
forefather of that,
especially because like the way that tuning or equal temperament or all that bullshit, whatever, like how that was all formulated, like and kind of decided on around that time, like I don't know. So, but Bach just is the perfect counterpoint, like contrapuntal, whatever, all that. I'm not a classical guy, but like all that stuff, like just.
Guttural Reef wants you to play that piano in the background.
I can go demonstrate if you want. Really,
it's not real. But it's not a real piano.
What are you talking about, dude? All the money that none of us get. When I say none of us get paid, it's all of us except for Casey. Casey's getting all the money from this millions of dollars that we're making from the show, and he's got a nice
down
in Oceanside.
I'm just like, guys, we just don't have any t-shirt money, man. Like, no stucking down.
Shout out to Lele Gruber for being like the German guy who knows all about counterpoint, and then also to like break every single one of those rules on purpose. Like all the voicing, like you can't use parallel fifths and blah blah blah. He's like, watch this.
Exactly.
Well,
that's the whole point, dude.
That's the jazz thing too, a lot of it, or like blues and all that kind of stuff. Just like, no, we're gonna fuck this whole thing's gonna be 7 chords or major chords, like it's a 4, 1 4 5. Like this is just this is what we're doing. 12. Oh no, we're gonna do fucking 3 lines of 4 bars. Like like just kind of creating your own staple, and then this creates this beautiful thing out of it with the defiance against all the Western classical stuff, which is great. But Western classical music gets to a point where it's almost like religion or a religion, where it's almost like it must be this way. This is how it's proper. This is, and it's just very like dogmatic. It's very dogmatic. Yeah. So like that's what I love about jazz and all that stuff. And I love a lot of jazz, but I'm not like always listening to jazz, like jazz. but I came from jazz, or I went to jazz more from either prog rock, fusion jazz, like, you know, King Crimson, Al Di Meola, like all that mixed together, you know, Ahavishnu, like all that into like, I love, then jazz just was like a natural progression. But I like kind of look at it as like an older genre of the same spawn out, and like funk and everything from it. And dude, it's just like endless, like,
I mean, dude, cool even before music, once there was rules, there was rule breakers, and the rule breakers kind of end up progressing shit to show people that we can actually get outside the boundaries of
the perfect thing about rule. Okay, so the perfect analogy here is, okay, well, what about fucking film composers, like just like breaking all the classical rules to like they make classical music like literally like with orchestras, and they break every single rule and do whatever the fuck they want, and make compositions for films. Like it's like a different focus of what your music is trying to achieve. Like, okay, classical, okay, we're just trying to make this music to please the rich people, or create Mozart, whatever, like to just please the elites, and it's like written in a way for a certain purpose, or it's beautiful, or it's so like perfect and this and that. But it's like, or like even art and painting, same thing, you know, but it's like the Mona Lisa or something like that, you know, but it's like basically, but like to be just completely like, no, we're gonna just completely do it different, like for this other purpose, like it's like, oh, we're trying to achieve something completely different, like, you know. So we're gonna
paint a painting of the Mona Lisa getting bent over, dude. And
all right.
I'll pick up. Sure.
And then like 1,000 dominoes later, you have like Merzbow or someone. Just like molesting an instrument in Japan.
Oh my goodness.
Well, I mean, luckily, not all the classical music was made just for Sunshine. I mean, at least in 20th century classical music, really started entering the atonal, like the Penderecki and the stuff that's in like where it's like real nasty. You know?
Even the Russian composers were doing that back in the day, like even Tchaikovsky and shit, like way back. But of course, Chopin and all those guys, and you know, all the
Shostakovich, fucking
dude.
Big influence on Spawn
and composers did shit too. Like almost all of them have these like works that are like completely nuts and like, holy shit, this could be death metal, you know, or like whatever. Like, think of it that way, or this could be a score for like, you know, this crazy horror movie or something like that. But the point is that like the intention of like what the music is specifically for, and having complete control over that is just such a rad like, or even take like John Carpenter or something, like, or guys like that, you know. But I mean, like, but just but also film composers, or like with this and that, like to, I don't know, or even like the minimalist guys like Philip Glass and stuff, like minimalism and stuff, like just they're all different, like focus, like intentions of what the music is, and it's very clear what it is, but it's also very unique and different to their whatever their thing. And it's so rad to be like, okay, it's classical music, it's this and that, but it's like, well, this is for a film, and this part's going to be like super nuts, and there's going to be like avant-garde craziness because there's a purpose, like, and we're trying to create that. Whereas like, oh, you can't break that rule here or whatever, you know. And even though classical does that in certain performances, movements, or how that's distributed based on that, but like people don't necessarily think of classical music off the top of their head as like the most insane music they've ever heard, you know. But when they might not think of that with a movie soundtrack, but if they like put on a movie soundtrack, and then if you just like put on the Predator soundtrack or something, like you just like listen to it in your house and put like the fireplace on, and you're just like, I'm losing my mind right now. Like, this is rad, but like also what the fuck, dude?
Because you're missing a piece of the main thing. So that music was made to
context
to be alongside this imagery, you know.
And that's what most people think about death metal. Okay, end of story.
Yeah.
Dude, all the thickest like soundtracks were those 90s action movies where they'd be like weird sounds of like dudes banging on metal with like metal bars, like dum cum cum.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, in Terminator 2, you know that sound at the beginning, that whoa, it's a vacuum cleaner.
Are you fucking serious?
I saw the making of one, something like that years ago, and it's like that beginning where it's like, and they're in the future and the things are flying around, and then the guy crushes the skull, and they're like in the war zone of the future, beginning of Terminator 2. Yeah, that's a vacuum cleaner going.
See, dude, that's all. I mean, that goes all the way back to what is that? A Foley artist? Is that who?
Foley, yeah, that's like recording sound effects basically.
Finding whatever objects you can use on radio or whatever to accentuate the story that's being told. Bricks smashing together as a gunshot.
I took a recording class in high school at Miracosta College here in Oceanside, and it was like they were talking all about Foley all the time. They're like, dude, Foley is so cool. You can they're gonna smash something and record it, and that's like your job. It's like, whoa, you get like a sledgehammer and like smash this thing and you like record it, and that's like your task for the day. Like you gotta get a really good smash sound, walk on like glass and stuff, or like it's cool.
I gotta think that so just talking about action movies in general. I mean, that's got to be a pivotal part of why metal music, especially in the late '80s, early '90s, and beyond, was just so good. Because I mean, those are the movies that I was raised on by my dad. He's like, you gotta make sure you watch Predator, you gotta watch Die Hard, you gotta watch basically anything that's got bullets, explosions, like hammers, like you name it, like. I mean, I knew all those movies like the back of my hand by the time I was like
it's such a 90s dad thing to do.
But those movies,
that's what I was saying.
I know, that's a really good point to bring up too. But I think also those kind of the way that 80s movies came out, like even like dark stuff, like it wasn't like super dark, like I think things now are just like darker in a way where it's like things more real, and it's like, oh, it's heavy, like it's dark or something. But like back in the 80s, it was all kind of like tongue in cheek a little bit, or like, I don't know, like that's the right phrase, but like I don't know, like it was like, it's like, oh, this buff dude with like it was like fake and cheesy and silly. It wasn't real and like actual, like it was like funny, and it was like it's like G.I. Joe or something, what I mean? It's just and dude, but the point is that you make a really good point. I was just thinking about that. I was like, it's like, why was Metallica so good at the same time when the movies were so good? Like as you were talking, I was like, interesting, and like when did things start to suck, like with rock, like in the early 90s, whatever, or not necessarily. There was good shit, but through the 90s, but it went tapered down, and then you got to new metal, and
well, I mean, I think that like when you look at it like that, dude, I mean, you were just making me think of how we do everything, dude. There's a new thing that comes along and everybody tries to duplicate it, replicate it, do their own version of it, and then it kind of gets distilled down into something that is valuable enough to pass on to the next generation, and then they take that distilled version and then they open it back up and they do their things, and then there's a replication, and then that gets slowed down. But it is
I've had enough of the rebootness, like all the remakes of remakes. I'm so over it. Like,
well, dude, it's like
if we're talking about film, fuck yeah, dude, they need to come up with some new shit for sure, dude.
That's just like that one song that we never got to play, but From When Time Begins, the Rebirth of Consciousness, that was like the most fucked up song that they refused to ever play it because it was just too insane. But like Bill's lyrics on that were like about this dude who, like, they were like the sickest lyrics of like all the songs, but we just never got to do it. But it was like this entity or this being, this guy, like, or he becomes like God or whatever, and he like clones himself. I'm totally fucking it up, by the way, but but basically something like it's been like a long time, but yeah, basically it's like this dude or whatever, like, and he like clones himself infinitely, like he keeps cloning himself, and as he does, he like diminishes, like, and becomes like this like shell of himself, like from cloning him from so many times, and like this whole trying to be God. And I don't know, man, I'm fucking it all up, but it's
it makes sense still.
Bill's mad at me already, I can tell.
Oh no,
you can only use a mother plant so much before you got to throw her out because she isn't giving off as much awesome energy as she was in the beginning.
Are you talking about mother plants right now? Do we have to get into earth? I'm so down to talk about growing weed, brother.
I would love to have a weed growing conversation, dude. I'm always fascinated by it. It's something that I've always wanted to do and I never did.
We've touched on a lot of topics tonight that we haven't really touched on before. It's been very interesting.
Yeah, no, this is actually something that
podcast.
I'm generally interested in, and I have been for years, because I would love to be able to grow my own weed and not have to buy it from anybody else. And I think that with all the, people that I've listened to on podcasts and things that I've read, it is something that if you do it right, it's so much more gratifying in the end when you have your crop nice and just like Professor's got right there, just like I got
there you
right
go.
here. Now we're
Icky
talking weed. I'm gonna fire this joint up again, but I've actually the culture of growing weed has always fascinated me, and I've learned a ton from that culture that made me realize why certain weed tastes the way it does, why it burns the way it does, because there's certain steps in all the process to get to the final bud product that everybody enjoys, that if they don't take those steps correctly, you're going to have a different kind of weed in the end. And I want to have the best fucking weed. So why not play God with it? And because that's really what growing weed is playing God if you're doing it indoor.
Okay, so some quick background on me. Half the reason you guys didn't see me or hear from me at all in my 20s is because I made pretty much 100% of my income from cannabis, specifically growing cannabis toward my mid to late 20s. I mean, I started out just selling it and being part of the medical scene like most other people, but eventually, was able to apprentice under another grower, and then eventually Washington State ended up legalizing cannabis. I think it was like 2011.
So you're Washington born, right? We never got to that. Washington.
Yeah,
born. All right.
Born and raised. I was born in southeastern Washington, about all the way back in 1989. And most people think about Washington as a bunch of evergreen forests and like stuff like that. But where I live, it looks more like, where I grew up, it looks just like the game Fallout 4. Have you ever seen that? Like,
no.
And like endless, like barren wastelands of deserts with like nothingness.
Oh shit.
So that's actually where they did the Manhattan Project. I don't know if you guys are
familiar with that.
Yeah, that's where the first atomic bomb was built, and then subsequently dropped in Japan.
Not in Los Alamos.
So that's why that sheds a little more light to why there's an atomic bomb in season 3 of Twin Peaks, dude. It all makes more sense, dude. It was right there.
Welcome to Washington.
Yeah, dude. What's the real? No.
I got one.
No, Kwame.
You guys, are you guys twin geeks? Right now?
I'm such a. Right. No, but back onto you with the being where you're at and growing the weed.
But anyways, like, yeah, I was driving past, a freaking nuclear reactor basically on my way to work every day, like, because the farm that I first got my start in the recreational thing was this outdoor farm in central Washington, which is only about 15 miles away from the Gorge. I don't know if you guys have heard of this massive music venue that we have over here, but there's a ton of pot farms that are within like a stone's throw away, just because it's a real nice, dry, arid climate out there. There's not a lot of problems with rain or anything that would cause the plants to mold out. So they were doing the outdoor thing out there, and I was pretty like amazed when I got there, because I had seen some medical gardens and worked in garage grows, closet grows, stuff like that. But this is the first time I'd ever seen 7K plus plants, like 14 foot tall, like massive plants. I'm talking like thousands as far as the eye could see. And I thought, oh, wow, this is probably the most weed I'll ever see in my life. And
sun-grown weed, dude.
Boy, was I wrong, because that wasn't even close to the most amount of weed I've seen in my life. That was literally nothing compared to the next step in the journey. After doing that for about 6 months, I helped them get a harvest off. I drove around the state trying to do the sales thing for them, like dropping off samples to every dispensary here in Timbuktu. And the company didn't end up doing so well, because turns out, every single other person had the idea to grow outdoor cannabis as well. The market got flooded, blah, blah, blah. We all know how that goes. So I was like, I'm going to grow indoor weed, because that's what I would want to smoke.
Right.
I speak for everyone when I say that.
Right.
Indoor is better. I don't care what anyone says. But
if you got the right God at the helm, dude.
Exactly.
I say playing God. You're playing God when you're doing that. So if you got the right God,
especially inside, yeah, because you really are a god when you grow indoors, because you have to control every single variable of the environment.
climate, everything.
Food, you give it the water, you give it the light, you give it the air that it breathes.
Yep.
The CO2 that it breathes sometimes.
Totally.
But anyways, I ended up venturing west, because I wanted to get closer to Seattle. I figured, I was still doing the music thing, playing guitar at home and stuff the whole time, even though I wasn't in a band when I was doing the whole pot growing thing. Because guess what, guys? Plants don't take days off. They don't. I mean, they sleep, I guess, but I mean, you pretty much have to depend on them 24/7. You can't really leave.
You're pretty much thinking about them constantly, because if you want to do it right, you got to be on top of your shit, right? Because things can happen. Speed bumps can hit, even if you have an indoor grow that you think that you have this perfect situation happen. Something can happen, dude. So you got to be a little more paranoid with that environment too. But I mean, that's what makes the good smoke in the end.
Absolutely. I mean, we call that the honeymoon phase in growing, when you have a brand new facility that's built, everything's working perfect, there's no problems, there's no bugs, there's no pests running around yet. But I mean, the longer that you have that facility running and you have these thousands and thousands of plants that smell so good, like you have all sorts of wildlife and critters crawling through the vents trying to get at them eventually. And and when you start to do this too on an industrial scale, I'll get to in a second, you start to see a lot of problems.
What's the most common thing? Spider mites and shit?
I'd say the most common thing in recreational cannabis that's a problem is going to be powdery mildew, because these guys are having a really hard time regulating the moisture content in facilities when there's, again, thousands and thousands of plants. They're all perspiring, they're all breathing and putting out moisture into the air. And I mean, unless you have some real serious dehumidification going on to get rid of all the extra water, you're gonna have issues.
Yeah.
And I guess to jump ahead, this next facility I worked in, we're talking, I was in charge of the nursery, so all the little baby plants, cute little guys, like from about this tall to this tall. There's 14,000 plants feeding a flowering facility of 40,000 plants. So I was dealing with 56,000 cannabis plants in one building, guys.
Whoa, dude!
So, like, I was in charge of 14,000 plants.
You're saying 14,000 mothers?
We had a mother room of like 300 moms. So, I mean, these are the big plants, but I'm talking like baby to teen plants. we grow them to about 2 or 3 feet tall before we flip them into flower.
Yeah.
But it's a tall order, especially when they're all hand watered and stuff, which is why I have like tendonitis problems now. Like, this region has just been basically eviscerated from like nonstop watering with the watering wand. Like, when you just have to water 14,000 plants manually by hand in a day, every day.
And what did you say the total was? 50 what?
I mean, there's about 50,000 plants total, but there's 14,000 of those were just in our nursery, which are the ones that I was taking care of.
Dude.
Yeah.
And that came off of 300 mothers?
Yeah. So, I mean,
dude, how prosperous that fucking plant is, dude. You know,
so
think about it, like that plant does not want to ever be phased out. That plant will go past us, I think.
I'm still doing math in my head here. So we're harvesting about 2,000 pounds of smokable flower every month. So in the almost 3 years I worked there, I'd say was directly responsible for about 72,000 pounds of weed, like bud, smokable bud.
And then so a company like that would what, divvy up to the smaller companies that would put their label on it and then put it in the dispensaries?
Yeah, basically. I mean, all their stuff was all over the state. So the grow I worked for was like the second largest in Washington. I think they got overtaken by another company called Fat Panda that's still around, that's doing their thing. Real popular. I like to smoke the good. I like to smoke the good stuff, so I don't really mess with Fat Panda because I don't like to mass produce. I'm like you guys that, I mean, if I'm gonna put something in my body, I want it to be the best of the best of the best that it can be.
Right.
I want it's got to be like living soil, never been sprayed, trimmed by hand, the whole plant hang dried for 2 weeks, cured to perfection. Like
you're speaking my love language, dude. I mean, I still get my weed from the guy who grows it, and I know he's been doing it for decades, and I know how he does it. And the dispensary weed now, I mean, yeah, it might be at the percentage and all that, but can we really trust the mass-produced weed anymore?
You can't.
I don't know. There's
I'll tell you that right now. You can't. I worked in the industry, and no.
And that's why this conversation kind of happened, because my mindset has always been like, I just want to, just like my favorite meals are pretty much cooked by me or my wife. Because I know exactly all the ingredients and all that. I know I'm being a little snobby when I'm saying that, but I just feel better about a meal when I know what's on my plate exactly. You go out to a restaurant, you don't know how they're cooking, what they're cooking. I love going to restaurants, guys. Come on. I'm just saying, like, there's a little perk to knowing exactly everything that I'm eating. So same thing with my weed. I treat it like another vegetable, dude. Weed is like another vegetable. It's like coffee to me. It's like I want it to be the high quality shit. If it's in my reach, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, because at the end of the day, if you smoke anything that's older than 90 days old, I mean, that's right around the time that any kind of flower starts to degrade. Even if it's been in a sealed glass jar, in the dark, it doesn't matter. It's like you're not going to go to the store and buy mint or basil that's been sitting there for 90 days plus. It's not going to have any smell left. A lot of people don't understand the smell and taste of cannabis is like what gives you probably 70% of the high, like at least. Like the Delta 9 THC plays a very small part in it, actually.
I never even fucked with all that crazy Delta 9 shit I've been hearing about now. I'm like, I think that's kind of crazy. So what is that? Yeah. If you could shine some light on that, because I've been like Delta 9 THC. What the it's derived from hemp, but everybody's been telling me that hemp's never had THC. So I mean, what the fuck,
so like it's Delta 8 actually. They're using some really funky chemical process to like break down hemp into a distillate and then fractionally distill it to remove part of it, that when you add another dangerous corrosive chemical to it, basically it like mutates it into being Delta 8. So it's kind of a gnarly, sketchy process to make that stuff. So like if you're in a state and that's not legal, that's watching this, like if you live in Alabama or Georgia or whatever, and you're thinking about going to the gas station and getting some Delta 8 gummies or a vape or whatever, I would seriously reconsider, advise against it, because I mean it's honestly kind of gnarly how they make that stuff. You don't know where the hemp's coming from. A lot of it's grown in places like China that have like high concentrations of heavy metals in the soil so cannabis is a great bioaccumulator. It like leaches whatever's in the soil around it directly into the plant. So if you're growing it around a bunch of heavy metals and toxic stuff, it's going to become, the plant itself will become toxic to consume.
We're not talking about Iron Maiden heavy metal. We're talking about
yeah, we're talking about the gnarly stuff.
No, but that's actually scary as shit, dude. I mean, it kind of reminds me of what was the other shit that they used to push to us 90s kids. The Spice. Legal high spice.
That's K2 and all that crap. Yeah,
that shit fucking always scared me. I mean, it's funny. I'm sitting here saying, "Oh, that shit always scared me," but I knew about that shit because it was right next to the nitrous fucking cartridges that I was buying from the same place, and I'm like, "That shit's gonna kill me." Let me get 24 pack of that nitrous right there. But that stuff still scared me. I always was scared of burning something weird, and but then I smoke cigarettes too. It's so funny how we pick and choose what we're gonna be scared of. Like, oh, dude, 500 plus chemicals that I'm smoking into my lungs every half an hour. This fucking K2 shit sounds weird as fuck, right, guys? Like, stupid.
Yeah, bad stuff all around. Just stick to just regular weed, kids.
Yeah, dude. Smoke the natural shit. just drink a little beer, smoke a little weed, and I think that's all you need, dude. Oh, I shouldn't say that.
Dudes who look like Sean and Bill Robinson, you can trust.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right.
All right, dude. Let's steer back on you. Let's again. When we go in the weeds, dude. By the way, that just means we're having a good time. So thanks for giving us a good time tonight, Sean.
Hey, my pleasure.
Oh yeah, dude. Avoid the logo. So tell us about the guitar and when that came into your life, and then also, put it into like playing with other people.
Yeah.
Those first situations.
So, shoot, I mean, it came to being in high school. I mean, I had started being really into listening to music because I discovered bands like Blink-182 and Incubus and stuff like that had distorted guitars and was a little more on the, I guess, aggressive side. I mean, it was still singing catchy pop kind of stuff, but
I was in a new metal band in high school, dude, so I know what's up, dude.
it was at least heading toward that direction, though, right? Like,
yeah.
But come high school, I realized to myself, like, man, like I really have no hobbies. All I do is sit around and play video games. I'm like, I suck at sports. Like,
what was your video game jam as a teenager? What was your console?
Honestly, Sega Dreamcast all day long.
Shit.
Because I realized that there's a way you could, like, I know it sounds terrible, I feel bad for saying, but you could like pirate games for it really easily and like burn them to a CD. And like so I had like 80 Dreamcast. I had like every Dreamcast game ever made, more than I could ever afford with my allowance or whatever. So that was kind of the way I went. And I think the first console I ever had was like a Sega Genesis. But I was always big into PC gaming too. Specifically like Counter-Strike, like that game, like the mod for that game Half-Life pretty much took over my whole life from like grade 5 to grade 9, basically. Like
so Half-Life goes all the way back then. I'm not a big gamer, but I remember Half-Life. You know who? Shout out to Erlen Kasperlin. Did I say it right? What's it? Kasperson. I always fuck his last name up, dude. I give it up to me for always fucking up names. But he had mentioned this version of Half-Life at the time we were touring with him, and I watched some gameplay of it, and I was like, dude, this is the next generation of video games. While I was watching that happen, but I didn't realize, I thought it was like a brand new thing at that time. So Half-Life goes all the way back to Genesis?
No. So I was 10 years old when I got my first copy of Half-Life. I want to say it was like 1997 or 1998 that game came out. But again, that was kind of like really in the golden years of like brutal death metal and that stuff going on too. It just kind of goes to show that like all the movies and video games and culture were kind of in sync at that time as far as like lending themselves to each other. But anyways, why were we talking about video games? Oh yeah, because that's all I did before I decided to start learning guitar. Because I was like, video games are cool, but I'm probably not going to get any chicks if I just play video games all day. Like, let's just be real. I mean,
right. I mean, nowadays you could there's probably some video game pros that are fucking drowning in gamer tail, dude.
We didn't have Twitch. We didn't have Twitch back then. We didn't have. I mean, there was the very beginning of like competitive gaming in the late '90s, like the TPL and all that stuff. So like it was starting to become a thing, but you didn't have these like multi-millionaire like gaming personalities like now, which still blows my mind. Gen Z kids is like, oh, that's normal. That's just how it's always been, right? And I'm like, no, like video game dudes used to like not get anything at all. Like, makes more money, like. But thank goodness that I felt that way, because otherwise I would have never picked up a guitar. So one day I was like, Mom, Dad, I want to play guitar. And my dad got real worried for things like, you better not get into drugs or any other weird rock and roll stuff. And I'm just like,
it's like,
really?
dude, you're the one who showed me all the rock, bro.
No, I mean, right? Like, I mean, Led Zeppelin, come on. I mean,
Come on, dude.
They were doing that stuff to the max.
You put me down the path.
I mean, in a sense, yeah. But yeah, my mom was like, "Oh, no, really, it's music, it's good." You know, because when she thinks of music, it's only
Right.
like Prince songs, Jesus, Bob Dylan, Candle Blowing in the Wind, crap like that. So it's just like, can't imagine like the possibility of me one day playing like "Addicted to Vaginal Skin" or whatever fucking Cannibal Corpse song title. But sorry, Mom, by the way, if you watch this, for like dropping that one there. But
it's all good, Mom.
anyways,
we love you, Mom.
Anyways, yeah. So I mean, at first I was like, of course, like trying to like learn basic stuff on guitar, like Incubus, and like I started looking at some tabs for like Irish folk music, and it's like, kind of. But I like when I first started playing guitar, guys. I'll just be honest. I was not naturally gifted anyway. I literally couldn't even do this without like just my pick flying across the room. I couldn't strum a chord to save my life. Like I was bad at guitar.
That actually, no, I like to hear that, dude, because hearing you're playing now. I told you pre-pod I'm a newer fan because of us doing this episode and Joseph bringing you guys to our attention, and it actually makes that stuff more powerful knowing that it started like that, because I mean, if you told me that you just picked up and you were fucking Steve Vai right off the bat, then then that wouldn't I'd actually probably, it would almost diminish the music a little bit. It just when egos get involved, I still love Bludgeon. I'm just saying, like hearing you say that you stumbled in the beginning of starting the instrument that you're a master of today. That's a cooler story,
Yeah, I mean,
if you're playing that kind of shit that fast, you're a master of your instrument.
I just remember feeling like disheartened when I very first started because I was where I was on guitar, and then I talked to some other kid who just playing. He's like, I was like, "What's the first song you ever learned?" They'd be like, "Oh, Sanitarium by Metallica," and I'd be like, I can't even come close to beginning to play that song. I mean, looking at it now, I mean, it's not much of a challenge, but starting out, it looked so daunting. Like I was like actually like so intimidated by that song. Most Metallica songs, honestly. I mean, and even now, as like a more advanced, I guess I've been playing guitar for almost 20 years now, so I can say I've gotten a little more advanced since then. But like, even to do justice to Metallica songs to make it sound the way James Hetfield does, it's actually really hard. Like to downpick every note and to like get all the inflections and the timing and to follow Lars's fucked up weird drumming. Like it's actually pretty tough. Like beyond what a beginner could ever.
Oh, for sure, dude.
Comprehend,
to cite another person who's been on the show, Wes from Alluvial. I recently saw a video of him. It was just a little peek into his lessons or whatever. I forget who posted it. Sorry, I can't cite it right now, but it was very recently, and you just see that Wes. It's not just playing the riffs. Wes has got it in his hands. Like the Wes that we hear is because of his hands and how he's playing it and how precise he plays those riffs too. But it's in the hands, I think, more than we talk about on paper. A Necrophagia song is a Necrophagia song on paper, but Muhammad does have his hands that not only created those riffs, but he knows exactly what he's supposed to do in certain places.
I think we can bring up the disgorge thing here because this really applies. Because if you just look at like a guitar profile, let's say of like a disgorge song, it doesn't even come close to conveying the intricacies of like all you have to do, the subtle, not just tempo changes, but like there are times where like Ricky will spontaneously decide to start speeding up on the drums, and like Diego has to like follow what he's doing and like react instantly. So there's like accelerandos, there's decelerandos, there's retardandos, there's like all this like crazy classical stuff going on that like kind of defies regular notation. Like it's not just like a simple to a click track kind of drum machine type thing like Periphery or whatever, where everything is like perfectly on the grid. Like they're more of like an R&B thing where they're like playing inside and outside of time and like around it and like dancing with it. It's like,
so when you guys that know how to speak this language and you're having a conversation together and you start to talk about accelerendos and all this, and then somebody's like, well, what about a retardendo? And does everybody kind of like skip a beat when somebody says it now?
I try not to. I try to be serious.
That's a hard word. That's a word that's
first of all, it's retardando.
Retardando. Sorry.
Retardando.
Well,
it's R-I, retard.
Well, because it starts. Yeah, the root is slow, and I'm assuming that's where like retarded comes from. Also, is like mentally slow.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, no, it's just context. It's
I
like
know,
if you're
but
reading
everybody
it,
kind of like when they know they have to say it. I know that most people.
I'm sure I learned
right
the word
before they're going to say it. They're like, "Fuck, I'm going to say the R word right now in this word."
It's not like that. I can.
No, it's not like that. Especially if you're talking to classical people, like they get it. Like it's.
I learned that word before I learned the word retarded or whatever. So
it's usually written just like RIT, like a little dot. You sometimes
yeah, the RIT, dude.
RIT.
Actually, the professor is the one who taught me about is it accelerando or accelerando?
That's simple though. You just accelerate
because of Imperial Triumphant. There was this one part in Imperial Triumphant. Excuse me. There's this one part where he speeds up and slows down and on his hand only, while everything else is keeping the steady 1-2 beat that he's doing, like, you know, really slow black metal blast beat, but his hand is accelerating up and faster, and then comes back down to meet the hands and then accelerates up again.
Sick. That's crazy.
And I was like, dude, that to me, because I've heard syncopation, I've heard plenty of Meshuggah, I've heard all this other things where drummers separate their limbs and do all these different timings with their limbs, but I had never seen somebody flow through all those timings where you really feel like that limb has no tether to what's going on outside of it.
Yeah, I mean, any limb or like your entire body going off grid, that is like the biggest like it's endemic to all jazz and like most classical, but it's antithetical to like all modern pop, all EDM. Like it's the biggest divide in music today, is like between music that is gridded and music that is not gridded. And death metal is like straddling it for sure, because there's like so much modern production depends on the ease. Like I couldn't do any of the session work I do if it wasn't gridded out like to a click.
Exactly.
So
and like also, I mean, it's just the whole history of it. Like a lot of the bands back in the day didn't do it historically, and then it became more popular as time went on. And bands that were like I mean, I'm sure there's bands that are still. I don't know if Cannibal will use as a click. They probably don't. I have no idea. But like with a band like Black Dahlia or something, or like, you know, these bands that were just like going and they're like, they use a click, they're like super on point all the time. But like that wasn't, I feel like further back that wasn't as popular, obviously, like what I never did like with any bands really, and then except for like recording and stuff, kind of, you know. That was more later on. But yeah, I'd make like a scratch guitar track with click on it or something.
What about
like yeah.
Real quick, before you go into it, I just want to say the song that I was mentioning, Atomic Age, it's off of Alphaville, Imperial Triumphant. Listen to that song. Listen to his snare hand very meticulously throughout that song. And shout out to Kenny Gorowski. I'd love to have you on the show. Been talking about you for years, and we'd love to talk to you about this one specific part and everything else around it.
All right. Hell yeah. So Suffocation, that's the band that I feel like was the first band that I heard that was really doing the retard on and accelerant thing as a band. Like I saw them live for the first time at like this place called Rock and Roll Pizza in Portland, Oregon. It doesn't exist anymore, but seeing them at the end of songs like slow down together as a band, like as if they all had ESP, was like the most impressive, craziest thing to me musically that I could ever think of. And they weren't using click tracks. It was just all like they were just that in tune from like rehearsing together so much and all that.
Right.
I thought that was like the coolest, craziest thing ever.
Well, don't you think that it is like you feel that catching a wavelength in the jam space? So you've been in the jam space to where everybody's so on point that night to where you all look at each other like, holy shit, dude, this is happening right now. And we're fucking sick, and let's ride this wave as long as we possibly can. Like that feeling is what we're chasing on stage, and to get it on stage too, and then have it be translated and understood by you as the audience member. That's the whole fucking thing right there, dude. Like you caught the vibe that they caught on stage, that they tried to take back from the jam space to that stage, and they successfully did it, and pass that energy to you as the witness. We did it. You witnessed it.
Oh yeah. Suffocation is definitely good at that. I mean,
dude, they're good at it every fucking time.
They're the top tier, and I think they kind of started that tradition. But even talking about the changing of the times, though, I mean, if you listen to their live in Quebec live album, and then you go and listen to the final North America live album, like back to back, you'll hear the difference. One of them, the Canada album, sounds like they're not playing to a click. It's like raw audio, like you can hear all the slop or like the speed ups and slow downs. But you go listen to the live in North America with like Frank's last performance. It is so to the grid, so edited. Either they're playing to a click or they just straight up like re-recorded all the guitars and drums after the fact, because it sounds like note for note, even tighter than most of their albums do. So I'm just like, huh. But either way, it's like the popular what people wanted changed at some point to where Nuclear Blast was like, yo, like we gotta make this live album like to the grid as much as humanly possible. It sounds great, don't get me wrong. Like I love jamming to the Pierce from Within version of that record, even more than the actual album, because like everything is on point. Like you don't have to memorize when he speeds up or slows down. Like you know the exact tempo it's at and stuff. It's a little less stressful.
Yeah. I think that Dave Colross on drums was one of the most to the album sounding Suffo performances that I had heard. Seeing Dave with Suffo at Regency Ballroom, I'm sitting there just waiting for Colross to do something different than the album, and he was just there. Every single note that as from what I can understand while I'm sitting there paying attention to everything that's happening, eyes closed, listening, and I'm just like, dude, this is the most in the pocket I've ever heard a death metal drummer is Dave Colross that night with Suffo, dude. And I'm just so happy that we all have those experiences, right? All four of us can think of a long list of times where we're at a live show and something pulls us even deeper into just being out at a live show. There's times where you forget where you're even at because you're just so deep into what you're listening to. And those are the things that were really I'm paying for all these tickets that I've ever paid for over 30 years of going to shows or whatever. I'm chasing that. It is kind of a drug. Like I'm waiting to just be pulled into it. And involuntary things happen. My body moves without me fucking, telling it to move, or I'm just like sucked into what's happening. And Suffo can do that. Cynic can do that. So Atheist has done that. Like so many bands that I've seen can do that to me. And why did I get onto this part?
It's all good, man. Feeling the vibes, the good vibes.
Yeah, dude. I mean, that's what it is. It's just like, I love this shit. Get out of the logo. Get it. I love this shit, and what you were just bringing up, Suffo. That's what it is. You brought up Suffo. It made me remember what it was like to see Suffo live. I haven't seen him in a while. I think I'm overdue for a Suffo situation.
Although part of me does wish Ricky would just jump back behind the drum kit and bring back Discourage. Come on.
Well, why? We got the professor doing that to violently vomit shit, bro.
It's just because of the attachment to the name, I guess. I mean,
I know.
Everyone knows TVV is Discourage right now, basically.
Yeah.
He's really not interested.
You want the Discourage? I tell you right now, I've seen Discourage with Ricky. I've seen Discourage with the professor. Both times I was fucking getting the fuck down, dude. I was sweating. Actually, watching Joseph, I was not even in death metal attire. I was dressed to the gills, like ready to go out to a nightclub, wearing a collared shirt and shit. And I'm fucking headbanging in dress shoes and shit. I should be wearing sandals, but I got dress shoes on at that time. But that's what I'm saying. Like, the professor still brings that vibe, dude.
I guess the main reason I brought up the Discourage after Cepho is that's like Discourage kind of took what Suffocation started with the exploration with timing, like speeding up together, slowing down together, and they kind of took it to another extreme. Like even in Woundful of Scabs, there's at least a handful of times when like Ricky will like start to speed up on the recording on purpose, and Diego has to like follow behind him and like doing all this kind of off the grid kind of stuff that any other lesser band would get lost or they'd fall off or not be able to pull it off. But
and in my statement, I'm not discrediting Ricky at all. I love Ricky. He's a fucking great drummer. And actually, it's a solid fucking flex to be like, you know what? I've been drumming in one of the most technical death metal bands on the planet for some time. You know what? I'm just going to fucking stop doing that. I'm going to jump on vocals for one of the most pioneering brutal death metal bands on the planet. Kill it. Like, he's basically saying, like, I can do it all, motherfuckers. I need to see him play guitar in some other legendary band now, and then he could just be like, yeah, that's the biggest death metal flex. But Joseph still fucking rules on that shit. He could still fucking rip that shit hard, dude.
Joseph's videos are the ones I was practicing to, and I was learning these freaking songs. Honestly, like the rehearsal videos with you and Diego, like when I was learning Womb. I mean, that was like the main one I was fucking rehearsing to because it's like again, he got it tighter than the actual album, basically.
Yeah, I am a little bit of a more gridded kind of like, you know, on the deed side rather than the free timey type side for playing through that material. And some of the Ricky stuff is like really weird for me. Like the end of the Consume the Forsaken album, Divine Suffering. It's like dun 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 dun. Like that is the most out he will get because he cannot play like a slow Suffo beat. It's like dun 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 dun. You know what I'm talking about?
I know the part you're talking about. Yeah.
That's like the ultimate, like, and it's super brutal, but I like can't do it like that. I'm like, that goes against all my musical inclinations. Like I have to be either dun 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 da 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 da, like be right on with
in tempo, yeah.
Or I have to like change the blast beat so that it like fits that tempo. But or I'll go like dun 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 da 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 da, you know, like So those mannerisms or whatever, like it's a very strict kind of brutality of just like only a certain amount of tempos are sick and only a certain, and like you can't break those. And if it's like trying to fit like a little, I don't know, a square into a circle peg, you're just like, nope, you're just plowing through it and just doing it anyway. Just destroy the barrier. And it's fun to play in a style that's like a little hard, you know, like what the source material is. But in honesty, like it's just, you look at Diego and you just follow his cue. I'm not trying to lead the way Ricky would maybe lead Diego. I'm trying to follow Diego most of the time. Although there's a point now where I kind of have like earned a little bit of trust and my own respect. I'm like, I think I can kind of like set a little bit of the feel here. So
there you go.
Yeah,
I mean, you're right. There's some weird shit in some of the disgorged drum parts, like on Dissecting, the part where it's like it's almost like a swing for like a half second and then just straight into blasting.
Oh yeah. I mean,
some weird shit there.
The Consume and the Parallels album, like Ricky's like cymbal work is really amazing, and he'll keep just a da 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 da, and then he'll be all over, and there's a lot of subtleties in what his other hand does. It's really worth like getting into and learning from. And who that's just the record, bro. Consume is still the goat.
It is, yeah.
Consume, I think it was Disgorge fully fleshed out. It was.
I'll drop a little timepiece here that for the Gulf Coast, we're bringing back a song from Cranial that I've never played yet.
Hell yeah.
I won't say which song it is, so it'll be a little surprising, but I still have to learn it. It's off the second half, so that's the earlier demo, the actual.
Yeah.
That's the self-title. I forget which one, but yeah. And then we're adding another song from Parallels too. So the last and the first. Yeah.
Actually, Disgorge and Sever did the same thing. Forced to Bleed is the previous release, adding a few songs up front,
Yeah. But it makes it super confusing for the Discog heads to like try to keep track of it all.
Yeah.
But dude, I don't know. We've been going 10 minutes and 2 hours. I want to make sure we talk about like Bludgeoned and Violence Only for a while.
Yeah.
Just hit the key points. Everything's been good so far.
Yeah.
So maybe you want to catch us up a little bit. I want to hear about the reggae. The reggae.
Yeah. All right. So I don't know what happened. Basically, like, I kind of got in some trouble with the law in my late teens, early 20s, and kind of fell out with all like my metal friends. Like I pretty much was like fucking. Basically, I was driving a car when I shouldn't have been driving a car. No one got hurt or anything like that, but I ended up going to jail. And all my metal friends kind of fell out and didn't want to talk to me as much because maybe it was like a reminder of what could happen to them if they kept going on the path a lot of them were going on too. Yeah. So at that point, I was like, well, I play guitar. I guess I'll just explore other avenues of music, and kind of just started going to like open mic nights at like bars since I was 21. And that's when I discovered a lot of like other, I guess, traditional styles of music like blues and funk and other jam band stuff, obviously, and then reggae, which, I mean, most people get into reggae. Why? Because like weed's awesome and they think that's cool. But after a while, I started realizing there was elements of it that I was so drawn to that was kind of similar to the stuff I liked about metal music, like the really raw and unconventional recordings, like the drum sounds. Like, I mean, the ping snare is like ubiquitous in reggae music, as well as like slam and stuff like that. So, I mean, if you look into the lyrical matter of reggae music, especially like Bob Marley's music, it's a lot about violence and strife and like this like visceral struggle in the third world kind of environment that's more nightmarish and hellish than most of the stuff that we in this country could barely even imagine.
And if we talk reggae real quick, for the like elitist, this probably isn't a good example, but this is always my example I use for people who just listen to reggae because they're on the beach and they have their cocktail, and people are playing volleyball in the background, and you got reggae, and just the vibe makes you, it's a beach feel, whatever. But if you actually dive deeper into it, there's a lot of like strong, deep messages that happen lyrically. And like 98 Degrees in the Shade by Third World, everybody.
It's a great song.
It's a killer song.
That's a great song.
That's a great song, bro. But most people, they're ordering their pina colada at the bar while they hear the song or whatever, and they're like, oh, I like this vibe. It feels good with the environment I'm in. But if you listen to it, it's all about being a slave and the POV of being a slave in Jamaica, and so if you dive deeper into reggae music, you'll also be able to understand a little bit more about that culture, and what it was like to grow up in that environment.
Yeah,
it's the reason why, not one of the reason, but a reason why I listen to hip hop too, because it helps me see what it was like to live as somebody who had way more struggles than I did.
Yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
That was what got me woke when I was a kid, listening to Bob Marley on the way to elementary school. I felt like I learned so much from just that Legend record. Set me on a path of cultural, understanding and humility. And I still think Bob Marley is the greatest musician of the 20th century and the most profound musician to use his musical platform as a kind of platform for the messages he was able to bring. I'm looking forward to the documentary. I'm a Bob Marley guy, whatever,
Dude, I listen to him weekly, bro.
Brother.
I listen to him weekly.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree that he's the greatest songwriter of the 20th century. I would agree with that.
like the Beatles as a collective, but Bob as by himself, and for representing the entire rest of the world besides the West or whatever, Westphalian. Like he just did it all by himself. I mean, with his band and everything, but like singularly, he was able to capture so much of the collective, mass of the third world, so to speak, and just hit, fucking right on target. It was beautiful.
Yeah. So that's right there for me, brother. Like that's my heart and soul, everything you just said right there. And I mean, I try to bring that same kind of passion with me back to the world of metal where I started, because I mean, I was into the metal thing way before ever dabbling into reggae. Like I was learning suffocation songs when I was like 17, with Guitar Pro and stuff, trying to figure it out. But I other reason I went towards reggae, other than because it resonated with me so much philosophically, is I heard something in music that was like a weakness in my own playing, that I didn't feel like I wasn't as comfortable with slower tempos. Like remember the Derek Roddy challenge that he did back in the day when he challenged everyone to like drum at like 6 BPM or something like that, and he said a click on like some ridiculous, it would be like click.
Yeah,
and then and he'd be playing like technical. Yeah, he'd be playing like crazy technical stuff, and it would fall directly on the beat. And that's when I realized, like, man, I really can't count, because I wouldn't even be able to come close to being able to like play that slow. Which I don't care what anybody says, like it's harder to play at 30 BPM than 300 BPM.
No, I mean, any educated musician knows that that's a true challenge, definitely.
Yeah. So for like when it comes to like slam stuff, and I guess a little bit of what we do in Bludgeon, and a lot of what we plan to do in Violence Only, is like the slow BPM parts are every bit as important as the fast stuff, especially when you're trying to be heavy and violent, And I mean, obviously, it's easy to make that music with modern editing and recording software and stuff, because you can just connect it to the grid. That's why Beatdown exists, because kids learn how to use DAWs, and they can just, But to do that live, the way Suffocation does with their slow breakdowns, I mean, that takes serious practice and skill. And I felt like deep diving into reggae music really helped me with a lot of that. Just learning how to relax more and play comfortably at slower speeds, which led to just having just a way better all around technique for alternate picking and everything else too, and just
and there's still a section, if you know enough of, like Bob or Joseph turned me on to Groundation.
Groundation is the other. So that's the best band I've ever seen live.
And it came off of a random question during a show where I was like, you never really hear technical death metal, and lo and behold, the professor's got.
You mean technical reggae?
Or what
Dude,
did I say?
that shit is like fucking
Tech.
yeah.
Yeah, I wanted some tech reggae. I was like, fuck, dude.
Paul Spina's drumming on that shit, bro.
And so he showed me that album, and I still listen to it till this day. But then there's also the Redemption song, Jamaica full band version song that is a bonus track on Uprising. It was a re-release of Uprising. In the bonus tracks there was a Redemption song full band Jamaican version, because they call it the Jamaican version, the stuff that they were recording before they went into the big studio. And at the end of that song, there's some really cool fucking drum stuff, dude. That is technical, and you could see that was that part where that drummer finally got to open up, because roots reggae is pretty simple in the drum department, other than like cymbal work and stuff like that, right? I mean, even the kick and the drum, kick and the snare drop at the same time. Most of the,
I mean, it starts out like, I mean, it's easy to learn, but I mean, when you start listening to stuff like bands like Midnight and even Groundation are doing, I mean, they're pushing it to the extreme. They're doing polyrhythms inside of polyrhythms, and I mean, half it's probably just because they're bored of going
right,
and they want to just like entertain themselves. But
at the roots, like I said, roots reggae, the OG shit. I mean, they did open it up, but they didn't open it up like that. You're talking about, right?
It kind of depends on how mainstream you want to go, because I mean, a lot of people, when they think reggae, they think like Cali reggae, which is like quantized to the grid, like with the phaser on the guitar. It's just like there's not even an upstroke. It's like smooth brain, like I gotta get drunk at the beach with my girl type shit, and it's like that was like poser ass reggae to me. Like I guess my elitism comes out when it comes to that stuff. Like, I mean, bands like those are. I mean, some of them are good. Like, what's that band that did the Bad Boys theme song for fucking that show, Cops?
Is that Steel Pulse by any chance, or
it's not Steel Pulse?
I'm glad it's not, because I like Steel Pulse's shit.
It's fucking Inner Circle. That's right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The only reason I bring these guys up is because one of our colleagues ended up becoming their guitar player, actually. So there's a guy on the SMN news forums who went by the handle Saijiro Mitsurugi or something like that. It was on the Between the Bury Me forums, but he's this killer guitar player from Florida who's like, he's the guy that turned me on to Cynic. His real name is Jonathan Orioles. Like, he showed me Cynic and like Ingra and like all this sick progressive metal from back in the day. And he went to college for music. If I wish Casey was still here, because I'd be like, that's the one guy I know that actually did pass that crazy ass classical ear training thing, that like he could hear all four voices and be like,
oh shit, yeah.
And he got the gig with freaking Inner Circle. He's their full-time guitarist now. He travels the fucking world, smokes the craziest weed you've ever seen, gets paid fat stacks, and is just like goes to NAMM and shit. I'm like, but that's a metal dude that like is like one of us basically. So I'm just like, dude, that's actually the coolest stuff.
I love that story, dude. That's amazing.
Yeah, I gotta hit him up one time.
Literally join the Inner Circle. It's fucking hilarious.
And he's the only one in the band that smokes. Is the crazy? None of those guys even smoke weed.
What?
He's the only one. He's the only one that plays it. Him and
they did the Cops theme, like, of course.
Yeah, they're probably not a little more swear, I guess, than your typical.
What if it was in their contract? Like, you can do this song. We'll give you a nice chunk of money, but from
it's
this
a sellout
forward,
move, yeah.
you can't use
those
marijuana
bastards
at all.
But no, dude, reggae was cool though, man. I mean, learn to use a tube amp. Learned a lot about just like playing low gain stuff, and how to control feedback and all that. Playing with delay pedals. It was a lot of fun. Learned a whole lot about gear.
It sounds fun, dude. I mean, the guys you're talking. Both of us are big fans. Obviously, we just talked about it.
You made me think that there needs to be a dub slam crossover.
I mean,
why mentioned the pink snare. I was like, damn, why is, because there was like Skin Dread and there was that like kind of new metal reggae punky thing for a while, and like Bad Brains, obviously, like hardcore and punk have been and reggae have been close. But dude, we need to take this off.
Joseph, let's go. Come on, bro. Fucking let's do it.
Yeah, I think that that is a wise move. And I would like to be somewhat a part of that, you know, like we've heard shout out to Cameron and Disfiguring the Goddess. We got the Slambient thing going on. Why don't we take fucking reggae and dub shit and mix that with some death metal and see what we get?
We can do it. Check out this band called Dub Trio. There's like these Berkeley kids that went to Berkeley School of Music. They combine some dub stuff with like, I guess it's like more at the drive-in level heaviness, like not, it's more like math rock sounding shit. But with,
I know that. I know those guys. Yeah,
they're sick, but like it's not quite as heavy as what I'm picturing in my head right now. From
right.
Dog.
No, I mean you gotta take that to the next level, dude.
I'd be down.
All right, yeah, this is. I'm gonna bookmark this one. Think about it hard for a while. But did you ever play reggae with bands, or was it you're just jamming?
So I was in a reggae band. We were this local band called Fishbowl. I think we're still on Bandcamp if you did a deep dive.
All right.
I need to get the hidden track on the album. I don't know if it's on there. It needs to be though, because we did it at the drive-in cover of the song Quarantine, and we made it like dubbed out, and it's even got like a slam at the end with like palm muted. So it's got like heavy guitars in it, which is really like rare. You ever hear that in reggae music?
Yeah.
It was cool because we had a real keyboard player. This guy who moved from France. He actually moved from France to go to MIT, and then he was working on the LIGO project at the Hanford site. Do you know what that is, Joseph? LIGO?
I know it's not a. What? Tell me, because I'm.
So it's
why wouldn't you think I wouldn't know?
It's the laser it's the laser interferometer gravitational wave observatory.
Yeah, I definitely don't know.
they're the ones that basically use fucking gravity waves to measure the universe and prove that Einstein's theory of relativity is no longer a theory. It's like a fact now.
Whoa.
Because of the research that these guys did. And they won a Nobel Prize for it.
Empirically testing the theory, yeah.
Yeah, and like one of those dudes played keyboards in my reggae band. Like, it is the weirdest fucking thing, but he was the funniest dude. He was sick, man. Fucking, we would geek out too, and like we'd be trying to sing like Bach chorales in the back of the van. We'd be like driving to Montana or something. I'd be like, that would be the alto voice, and he'd be like the tenor voice or whatever.
So, and then would you have conversations about that type of shit with him, and he'd explain it in somewhat of like a Neil deGrasse Tyson level, you know?
Yeah, but at the same time, I mean, he saw our band as like an escape from all that like academia. He's like, I can just go hang out with these bros and like smoke weed and like try to holler at chicks and like like it was just like getting away from the 80-hour-a-week grind that he was doing.
Yeah.
But it was great. We got to play shows all over the Northwest. We even got to play a couple of little festivals. There's this one called Barter Fair in Eastern Washington that's like in the freaking mountains. So like out like when there was like nothing there, this entire village of like hippie people will just like appear out of nothing, and there'll be like tents as far as I can see of people trading stuff. Like, oh, I'll trade you this jar of pickled peppers and mints for your jar of weed that you grew or whatever. People would just, so that way there's no cash involved, and people could just go buck wild. I mean, you Californians know all about that trade.
Totally
hippie life. Somewhat. I know this guy at the top left is.
Yeah,
it's
all a little controlled here now.
Shit.
Yeah,
it's got more tame in the years since, but I mean, this is back when cannabis wasn't even fully legalized yet, or just was starting to get. So there was still a little bit of that black market element left, and I mean that was half the reason we even did the band, is because we were just trying to ride that wave of the end of legalization when like all the growers were still doing their thing. It was just kind of going out of style party essentially. Now reggae seems to have kind of fizzled out in recent years. I mean, Groundation, they have like a new lineup of younger guys. I don't think they're doing much. It's just all the original members aren't in it anymore.
It's just Harrison, and I almost caught them doing the Hebron Gate record at the Garden Amp nearby here, and I didn't make it, so I can't report on whether they're still good or not. But that's a great record, and I'm sure
that's one of my faves.
But yeah, it's very, it's a classic story. Like a band will put out 4 or 5 amazing records, and then they'll kind of get by with the strength of that, and then they'll just keep putting out some records that you don't really listen to, but it's whatever. So
we're gonna lose some listeners right now because I'm gonna go deeper on the reggae shit right now.
He's determined. This probably never happened on Cali Death Podcast.
It's all good, dude. I know somebody's got to still hang out for this at this time, but I still I still hear new Marley related stuff now that I never heard from before. So we were talking about everything changes, nothing's all the new shit. It's hitting a lull, Yeah. So then that kind of makes me naturally dig backwards and make sure that I didn't miss anything. So I go into the Wailing Wailers because I love the progression of the early ska, Motown influenced ska that I don't know if you would call it I mean, it's not a progression because it slows down. So what's it's a retardendo or
it's an evolution.
No, it just got heavier. I mean, the subject matter got deeper.
So I know the story is, I don't know if it's just lure or not, but they DJ or not a DJ, a guy at the records one day was just like, you know what, we need to slow this half speed. The ska stuff is making everybody's too hot, everybody's sweating, let's play this record at half speed. And that skank got played at half speed and everybody was like, oh, this is nice. That's just
no.
Well, then you got Rocksteady and all that stuff too, which is it transitioned down. It wasn't just like a half speed, let's cut it in half and let's fucking
Yeah.
What do you think, Joseph? What do you think?
I mean, I heard like a folk tale that it was like one summer day that it was so hot that everyone was just so tired and hot that they just started playing slow, and then they realized it was.
That's a variation of the same story that I heard. So we're really just speaking lore now. It looks like Sean might have a third opinion. On the origins.
I mean, a lot of it just depends on the purpose of the mood you're trying to create, right? I mean, when you're trying to pick a tempo of a song, I mean, if the people that want to party, they want it to be faster, like more upbeat usually. Like, I mean, I guess nowadays people might put on weird lo-fi hip hop at the club and be all sipping lean or something, getting all weird. But like back in the day, I mean, disco, historically, party music tends to have higher BPMs, higher tempo, whereas the more somber and even like religious, spiritual kind of tones that reggae music has, it's like because they're a little more serious about it, like they want people to become more reflective and look inward. So I mean, I think the lower tempo kind of translates to more of like a meditation kind of thing.
So I know, but that's later on down the road. What I'm talking about too is the ska version before reggae was even a thing. So and I think that Motown, if you listen to like Barrington Levy or early Wailing Wailers stuff, you will find a direct connection to the Motown sounding doo-wop and R&B.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That was happening at the same time. Like that kind of was like funneled to Jamaica, and Jamaica took it, ran with it. Same thing. I love the idea of being an MC, but over there you're called a DJ, but it's an MC over here when you're hip hop. I like that rhythmic talking to music was happening over there, and the remix thing with Lee Scratch Perry was happening over there first, and then it came back over here. So it's like things get passed around the world and then passed back, and then it causes this like growth.
Yes. The short answer is yes. You're right. It's basically the root of all modern popular music, like especially like electronic music, like EDM, dubstep, anything like this. It's basically just computerized reggae. The snare falls in the 3. I mean, it's just like in most hip hop music.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as long as the snare's on 3, it's gonna have that sort of feel to it. And same with rapping, like you said, they call it toasting back in Jamaica when people would try to like freestyle over the beat, but it's basically the same thing.
Yeah, but that was happening before hip hop. It was a thing, you know.
Yeah, it was the genesis of it. I mean, can hip hop, correct me if I'm wrong, kind of started more on the East Coast when like a lot of people like Jamaican immigrants would like show up in New York and places like that, where I imagine
when disco was like a thing.
Yeah, that's where the first sound system started popping up. You know,
right?
People doing like the hip hop thing for sure. And then fast forward, let's connect this to even something on the show with metal and slam, like bands like Devourment and stuff like that took that hip hop beat that had come from reggae music and were like, let's make this into a slam, or Internal Bleeding too. Like they're basically starting with in reggae and they're ending in this freaking
kind
of thing.
For
so
sure, dude.
It's
I was gonna actually, if you didn't say Internal Bleeding, I was definitely gonna mention Internal Bleeding as one of the forefathers of that sound, right? I mean, Suffo, Internal Bleeding, Pyrexia. But I think
I'd say Internal Bleeding is the ones that like really made
when did
they
start? What was the first demo, Internal Bleeding demo? When was that?
90, was it 92, 93?
I think it was, about that time. Yeah. Also Afterbirth, who I shouted out last episode, also have a 92 demo. So
sick.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to make sure we don't go like super far past 3 hours. And so from reggae,
non-reggae part.
how do you when do you get back into death metal seriously and start like creating the building block? The foundations for what will become
when was
Bludgeoned?
the Manhattan Project for your metal renaissance?
All right. So I mean, I was still working at the massive indoor pot facility. I mean, but I was starting to get kind of burnt out, like injuries just kind of started happening, and my heart maybe wasn't fully in it as much. And one day I was just chilling at home, and I ended up getting a phone call from an old friend of mine from high school. Kid, he just showed me like Between the Buried and Me, like the Silent Circus was like the record that like made me want to like start practicing guitar like 6-7 hours a day when I was a kid. To be like, oh man, like I need to get good. I can play songs like Mordecai, blah blah. But anyways, that guy called me way later in life, and I was like, this was more like 2017, 2018, and was just like, hey, what's up? And I was like, oh, I'm just chilling. He's like, hey, do you want to start a death metal band with Jonathan Huber on vocals? And I was like, yes. Okay. And he's like, all right, well, get a metal guitar, then get a head or a cab or something, and show up to this address. And so, I mean, I had nothing. I had my Gibson SG, and so I pretty much, went to my now fiance, and I was like, hey, is it okay if I join a metal band? And can you help me get this metal guitar that I need with your credit card? and somehow conned her into buying me this beautiful Jackson that I played on all the Bludgeon recordings, everything we've ever done, every live show we played.
Here, wait, hold it up one more time.
Shout out to my fiance for
hold on, how do I make you? There it is. Cool, we got it.
Yeah, Jackson SL7 HT. It's a hardtail with the hip shop kind of copy. Seymour Duncan pickups, distortion pickups, the 7-string version.
Nice.
Does everything I need it to do. Sounds great. Don't have to worry about batteries, stuff like that. But anyways,
Well, quick story about how you proposed to her. You just said fiance.
Yeah. Shoot. How did I propose? I pretty much just like asked her like we should probably get married, huh? And she was just like, yeah. I mean, we've been together for this is our 13th year together, guys.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah, I think the day we got together was September 27th, 2011. So it's been
hell yeah.
It's about time that we tie the knot and get that.
Hey, dude.
Damn.
13 years is that you definitely know that you can spend a lot of time with that person.
Oh yeah.
Right?
She's my better half for sure. I mean, I'm kind of scumbag compared to her.
But you pulled the keep the death metal away until it's too late, and then you throw it back in. That was my move too.
I tricked her basically. I was like, I'm in a reggae band. It's all harmless.
You kept the death metal behind the little fucking thing, and you're just like, whoop! Nope, it's still here.
This is actually all I care about, by the way.
This is my sole purpose in life that I've always dreamt of since I was a teenager.
It's a Trojan death metal Trojan horse, dude.
Yeah. But luckily, no, she was cool with it, understood it, it meant a lot to me, so she allowed me to go into this insane.
I mean, in reality, when you like, I've been with I've been with my life for 39 years, but I've been with my wife for 17 years, and or actually 18 years now, and she just knows, she gets it, dude. That's what it is. They will never fully dive in with us. They'll go to shows every now and then, you know. They'll dip their toes in the lake of death metal. We'll take them to the edge, and they'll get their feet wet every now and then. But well, I mean, your wife might be different, but it doesn't matter because they see our reaction to it, and you're with somebody long enough, they see how passionate you are about anything for a certain amount of time. They're just like, all right, that just needs to happen for my husband or my wife, you know. And as the wife or the husband, you got to just be like, go for it, you know.
Yes, that's great advice for any of y'all fellas or even ladies out in the audience who are single and maybe struggling to find a partner or a mate. Best advice: be your complete 100% total self, as weird as it may be, and be passionate about the things you actually like, and don't deviate from that, and then eventually you'll find someone who can tolerate it.
Right. I mean, that's what it all is finding somebody like Joseph. I'm sure you and your wife have totally different interests in some part of your
I mean, it's funny. So when I mentioned that I used to sing in a metal band, actually the night that we like first kind of got together or whatever, little hookup thing, was a night that I played a show at my college, and I was wearing corpse paint. Actually, it was one of those. And so like I was as upfront as you could be. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I'm a clown. I know, dude. Can you imagine?
No, this is great. I love this so much.
I actually can, and
this is one of the coolest origin stories of a couple ever, dude. Because she, you know, interacted with you with the corpse paint on, and still was like, I need to follow up with this guy. I don't need to go to the opposite end of the earth right now because this man seems like he might want to kill me.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It was senior year of college. Music is like my thing, and you know, we related on a bunch of other stuff that's equally part of my life, like life, religion, philosophy, even politics, like a lot of other stuff. But I was up front in that way. Like clearly I was a very serious musician. I think I did Trojan horse a little bit of like the how serious I wanted to pursue it thing. Like it really came out in the late 20s when I'm like, dude, I can't hold this in anymore. Like, you know, I sacrificed a lot of time away from it, and now I feel like I'm catching up. And so she's tolerated it and is cool. So we're cool.
Yeah.
So
hell yeah.
What's up?
And is genuinely happy, and you know, all that. So
right. And I'm sure that she's got something too that you give, you know.
Oh yeah, AI,
her-
computers, all that stuff, technology in general. But we,
Oh shit, dude, your chick's into AI, dude. I did an AI. I probably had to write it up on the show, but the AI generated art trips me out, dude. I brought it up recently.
Yeah, she's a AI scientist. That's what she does.
Whoa, dude. So okay.
Sick.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't want to take it away from Sean, but that is super interesting, and I want to have your chick on the show, bro.
Yeah. We'll do a spouse episode at some point.
To have that conversation, because I'd love to see what that's all about, like behind the scenes of that.
Yeah, she mostly works on the language models, but she has some work. She's actually generated some music videos, which are really cool. The static art stuff is pretty, like, it was, everyone has their hot take or whatever. I certainly do. The videos she makes are really trippy, psychedelic. I think there's more promise there than like the other stuff, the static image. So
yeah, I mean, the static image, what you're saying is like you just type in what you want to see, and then it comes back, and your results are actually, some are pretty cool. But yeah, I know it's not perfect yet. But us saying that it's not perfect is gonna make us perfect it, and then that's when it's gonna come alive and eat us up, dude.
Yeah,
Oh,
I know. I mean, we'll get into it.
Yeah.
So you joined the band. Huber was already a member, Sean, before you joined. So that's how you connect, not you putting them together.
So like my only connection to John before joining that band was I had the privilege of getting to see his first band ever play at my local hometown venue when I was a kid. This place called Ray's Golden Lion, which thankfully has actually reopened recently. This guy that actually he played bass for Bludgeoned for a very short time. His name is Alan, but he bought the venue, so it's a thing. Now Suffocation actually just played there a couple months ago when they were on tour in Eastern Washington. So, but anyways, John's band, I Declared War, they played there back when like Amidst the Bloodshed came out. I was like 17 years old. I remember being like, oh, kind of pop punk, kind of like metalcore something. But then I was like, but those vocals, like even as a kid, I was like, God damn, that dude's gutturals sound fucking insane. Like I mean, I was a little bit into the. I mean, there was some hardcore stuff that was cool, but when I was a kid, I didn't really appreciate it that much. All I thought of was like it's Madball and it's 0 0 0 0 0 0. I mean, you don't appreciate the rhythmic subtleties, and there is stuff that makes hardcore good, and there's reasons why people love that music too. Other than being just a stubborn metalhead like I especially was. But yeah, that's how. I mean, I didn't really even talk to John or meet him. I was just a little kid, and he was like the cooler older kid. He was like 4 years older or whatever. So I was like, not cool enough to talk to him. But his band was cool. And then fast forward all these years later, and we just kind of hit it off. I mean, it kind of helped that we were both blue collar dudes. Like at the time, he was working for Taylor Farms, like harvesting shellfish, doing like the gooey duck thing. Really brutal work where you're like on a boat in the freezing cold at like 2 a.m.
Yeah.
I would never want to do that. But I mean, I was working in a warehouse doing other gnarly stuff that a lot of people wouldn't want to do either. So he was like, "You're all right, fucking, you're brutal like me, and we fucking, we don't sit in an office chair all day." Which, no offense to anyone that does, because I've done that too, and it's its own set of challenges and grind. Like, the deterioration of your physical health as you're stuck in a chair for 8 hours a day.
Right. At least you're walking around. Yeah, you could always look at it like at least you're walking around, you're picking shit up, you're putting it down, you're doing this, you're doing that. That's how I feel about. I'm like, okay, yeah, I just work on cars all day, but at least I'm just walking around. If I had a office job, that would benefit me in other ways. Probably I might make a little more money, but I would have to find ways to stay active way more in my everyday if I had that kind of job, and which people do too. But yeah, you just compare yourself to other people's situations, but you would adapt to anything that you're in, really.
Yeah, exactly. But anyways, like we hit it off. It was cool. There was those kind of issues though, like we kind of alluded to earlier with the lineup and things. We didn't really all get along, unfortunately, with the original drummer, the guy who brought me into it. It's a shame because he was one of my best friends growing up as a kid. But I mean, he wanted to play beatdown, and we wanted to play 300 BPM crazy technical death metal stuff.
Yeah,
he just didn't want to do it. He's like, my wrist hurts blasting at 250, and I don't want to blast at 300. So I was like, that makes sense. That makes total sense. It's fine.
I don't mean to bring up gnarly shit if it did, but are you guys homies still?
Unfortunately, not, because of what went down after that. I mean, because when he was on his way out of the band, he decided to start another band immediately in the process. I offered to help out with the guitar tracking as like sort of a farewell gift in a sense. And that was the short time that I was involved with a project called, unfortunately named project called COVIDectomy, which has happened during the COVID crisis. And it was definitely kind of a mixed bag of emotions, and maybe not the best. I didn't come up with the name, the singer did, but looking back, it was kind of a little bit in poor taste. But at least the music was really good. The drummer, he wrote all the music. I was just like hired gun, basically like learned the riffs and like got it as professional sound as possible. But we got to work with Ivan, who is the producer from who he's worked with, like Slaughter to Prevail, I believe, and like some other bands. But like that dude's an incredible producer and mixing guy. I'm not a huge fan of the other deathcore kind of stuff bands that he works with. Like I'm not really big into STP or anything like that. But I mean that he did an amazing job on the COVIDectomy stuff. But the part of that really messed me up was the way they wanted us to track it. It's the same way they wanted us to track Rejecting Sunlight, because they sent me some video from, I believe it was Chris Whitehead, the guy that plays for like Body Snatcher, like the drummer of Body Snatcher. But he made this video of how to track guitars for beatdown. It's basically like, okay, you say the parts at 250, you just play it at like 180, so it's like slower tempo, and then you're just gonna drag every single note to where like you're literally dragging every single freaking note to the grid. And so like my grid for these COVIDectomy songs was ridiculous. I mean, till literally where it's not even a human being playing guitar anymore. Like I made it sound human by like making them all slightly like 1 millisecond off the grid, or like to the point where it sounds humanized. But like, make no mistake about it, there is no real humanity going on. The same with Rejecting Sunlight. It was all 100% edited. Like my performance did not exist in the music, where any guy could have just grabbed a guitar with EMGs and given it enough time and clicking a mouse. I mean, it would sound. I mean, that song got tons of streams, which is the saddest part. It got more streams than anything else we've ever done, just because people want stuff that lines up with their TikTok videos, that is quantized to fit their social media posts, that like it'll all match up. And we're accompanying their lives now. It's not like skate videos like back in the day where they tried to find songs that would match what they were doing. It's like, I don't know, people are making songs just to be featured in social media.
And everybody punches in, like our generation definitely is plenty of punch-in parts on their recordings and stuff. But when you record like that, and by all means, do whatever you want with your art. Like in the beginning of this, we were talking about making the best painting. If you want to make the best version of a painting that you painted in the jam room, you want to make that best version, you want to make that epitaph, or even try and overcome epitaph. Do however you want to do in the studio. Like Sean was saying, record it 180 and then bring it up. But God damn it. Why did I get lost in that? Come on. What were we on right before that?
I think if you have trouble articulating your point, it's because it's actually kind of a tricky point to make. Like,
it is.
What's the value that you're losing? Like, are you really losing anything?
That's where I was going. Thank you. So, Sean, if you record an album the way you just said it, and that was the best version of that music, and yeah, you weren't a part of writing it, you were just the hired gun, you said, but somebody were to come up to you and say, dude, this album is amazing and you're a part of it, blah 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 blah, as an artist you would feel that you would have your personal feelings towards how that was recorded and presented, and then could you really react to, you know, the person being like, this is the sickest thing ever, and you're just like, you want to be like, well, this is how it was recorded, but you just be like, oh, thanks guys, that's cool, but then it's still like always just like, oh, that actually isn't really me, guys. You know,
I mean, it's what it is. It was a product of my labor. So at the very least, I had control over the outcome, the way it sounded. Like, I mean, all those notes that I dragged around, I mean, to make it sound behind or ahead of the beat slightly or whatever. I mean, those are all decisions that ultimately I had to make. So even though it wasn't me actually playing a guitar per se, I mean, it was still sort of something that I had a hand in creating. And I still feel good when people would come up and be like, even when I played in Chicago at the Chicago Domination Fest with Bludgeoned, I had a few people come up and be like, dude, can you sign my COVID-ectomy CD? Like, that shit was sick. And can you sign this other one? I was like, no, I wasn't on that. I was only on the first release before I dipped. But thank you. And it's still nice to hear that stuff. I mean, don't get me wrong, but the thing that was unfortunate was I learned that they were planning on replacing me with someone that had more expensive gear, nicer gear, and a better look or something as soon as the album dropped. So the day of release, knowing this, I just was like, I quit. They got mad, and I got basically, they axed me out of getting any kind of like merch or any kind of like, so I paid for half of the recording of the album. I never saw a dime back. I never got a piece of merch for it. Like, they pretty much ghosted me. So like, long story short, me and that guy aren't friends anymore, which is really tough. But
well,
you live and you learn, you know.
Yeah, I mean, shit happens, but
thank you.
Well,
yeah.
I never heard of them, so fuck it.
It's addition by subtraction, yeah. Because I mean, we Mr. Nikhil Talwalker, you know, I thank goodness for Larry Wang, because he's the reason why I discovered Nikhil in the first place. He was having some kind of like guttural contest or something like that, where he was like having people like audition to for best gutturals, and he mentioned something about is it Oscar that did the undeciphered thing? But he mentioned Nikhil while mentioning undeciphered. He was like, "Oh, the 15-year-old blast prodigy, blah blah," and I was like, "Huh?" And I went to YouTube and I typed in Nikhil T or whatever, and then up popped that video of Sati by Defeated Sanity that he recorded a cover of when he was like 14 or 15 years old, and he's like, and I was like, oh, okay, this kid's actually pretty good for his age. And I ended up, hitting him up. We started talking a little bit, and at the time that he was offering like transcription services for like, I can tab anything by ear, doesn't matter how bad the production is, kind of bragging. So I was like, I'm gonna put this kid to the test. I was like, all right, I'll give you $25 if you can tab out a song off of Consume the Forsaken. And he's like, oh yeah, and I was like, what's your favorite song off of Consume? I'll let you pick it, Nikhil. And he feels like, oh, I'll tab out Dissecting. And I was like, oh, all right, fucking. And he did. He made the tab of that song. It's, to my knowledge, it's like the most accurate Disgorge tab I've ever seen on the internet that wasn't created by Disgorge. Fucking, I might upload it to the secret songster that Joseph made at some point later.
I asked Nikhil to send me the tab. He said he'd get it to me, and it didn't get to me yet, so I'm still waiting it. So
I'll send it to you. Fuck
I've collected a couple other unofficial tabs, plus I have the official tabs for. And we keep a pretty tight ship. We don't let those go out yet.
10, 11, 12, 10, 11, 14. What was it?
Yeah, I came across that compost environment tab. It's pretty close. That I think might be the official one. But
oh yeah, Diego did that pretty recently. He tabbed that song out. There might be an older one, but he did an official one for us like a year or two ago. I don't know if there was an official one before then.
I don't think there was before, but it is the recent one. But it's
Yeah,
that's a fun one. But anyways, like I said, Nikhil did it. He tabbed out the song. And that's when I was like, okay, that's when I realized his real talent. Because like videos, stuff like that. I mean, recording, you can kind of fake it, but the ear thing, you can't fake that. Like it takes a special kind of ear to be able to hear through that dense of production, and even to have the resources and the smarts to use all the modern tools available to transcribe it. Like he showed me stuff like tuners that have a piano roll on it. So like even if it's an indecipherable garble of noise, you can still see what pitch is coming out of that section of audio. And so he had access to these transcribing tools that I didn't even know existed. So I talked to him. Thank goodness for Gen Z kids. They're like,
no way. So he runs the original recording through a tuner so you can see the pitches. I never heard of that.
Yeah, fucking. And sorry, Nikhil, if I'm ruining all your secrets for the entire world. It's too late now. I'm trying to find. I have the app somewhere on my freaking phone. I'll send you a link to it.
You got frozen again, dude. Whatever magic you had the last time.
Oh, am I unfrozen yet?
No, you're still frozen.
Last time I just soloed it and it worked, but I don't know. It's fine. We can hear you. We can hear you.
For the audio listeners, it's no
anyways,
different.
I'll find that iPhone app and I'll send you a link to it after the show.
Okay.
But yeah, they're basically our tools in ways that you can load up even the most indecipherable, worst produced death metal there is. Still get material out of it. So
I'm gonna put kniving through it and see what it can get.
Yeah. So Nikhil was 15 when he joined, or because I mean I hadn't asked him to join yet, but I was like, damn, this kid's really good. But it was when he put out that drum cover of Dead Set on Suicide by Cali Decapitation. I saw that and I was like, holy shit, this kid.
There he is.
Like I immediately, like I was at John's house, I just video called him and I was like, hey man, like you want to join our band? And he was just like, sure. And I was like, oh, way easier than I thought it was gonna be. Holy crap.
Oh yeah.
All right. And then I sent him the single basically. So like I mean I had just learned how to program drums. When our former drummer was let go, basically, John turned to me in his house and was like, okay, you're the man now. Like you have to like do this. And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, you have to write all the songs and like do everything now. Like, and I was like, okay, like because I was always been a hired gun. I always just played other people's riffs. I liked learning cover songs. I liked just like looking at tabs and learning stuff. So I had written riffs like a couple times, maybe like 6, 7, 8 years prior, but I mean, Bludgeoned is literally the first band I've ever played metal guitar in. Like,
wow.
Ever. And then I just was like, okay, I have to write riffs for this legendary vocalist now. And I'm like, I was honestly fucking terrified, guys. Like, because I mean, the first single did pretty good. The drummer, I mean, he had played for Enterprise Earth and bigger bands and like, had some clout and like, and just the guy that I'm replacing. And, I had no idea what I was doing. I literally just was like connecting things together. Tom, Phil here, this and that. I'm not a drummer, so I would just try to like, maybe this part needs a blast beat, or I don't know how to make fills, so I'm just like random tom hits. I don't know, whatever. Did the best I could, and then sent it to Nikhil. Then he said he made one recording where he played exactly what I programmed, and I was like, oh, that's nice of him. I kind of expected you to dress it up a little bit though, because he's like, all right, let me do another take, and he did a second take where he played all the perfect fills and like all the slowdowns and jazz breaks and like little break beats and shuffles and all this shit that I never could have thought of. But I mean, it still technically followed like the patterns I had imagined, and I was like, sweet, let's go. I mean, literally second take, he just knocked out of the park like that. So I mean, we released it, and fucking the rest is history, I guess. Like, I can't believe he was only 15 years old when he tracked that song. Like, that's just crazy to me.
Whoa.
That's Genocidal Processes is the name of that one.
Yep. There's fucking Vitek. There's little young Naveen playing with Animosity.
Yep.
There's Nikhil. There's a couple other guys that started real young. I wish I had recordings of me playing metal at that age. I think my
the
first recordings.
drummer. What's his name?
Oh, I don't remember his name.
I think he was 14 or 15 or something when that band recorded. Fractured. I don't know if he was, or maybe he was that age when they started.
I would say there's never been anyone as extreme and as young as Nikhil at 15 recording like cattle decapitation songs perfectly.
Yeah.
Like he's truly fucking like, and Lele will say the same thing. He's like, bro, I wasn't doing that shit when I was that young. Like that's wild.
And this kid's his guitar playing. I mean, a lot of people haven't really. I mean, people have now seen him play drums in person, right? Because I mean, he played live with us. He played live with Trinity in Chicago, like, which that was fucking insane. I mean, he played the songs faster than the recordings because their click track broke. Like they were playing them at like, say a song would be at 280 or whatever, and then he would play it at like 300 on accident.
Yeah.
But yeah, John Longstreth is like hiding in the back corner, like watching him. His eyes are just like popping out of his skull, like, oh God. But anyways, I brought him over to my house to play guitar though, and like I was like handing him my Jackson. I was like, show me how to play some of this anal stabbing wrist, and it's the only time in my life, guys. I've seen a lot of performers, I've seen a lot of guitarists play in front of me, but it's the only time in my life I've ever seen someone's hands move so fast that the refresh rate of my eyes like literally couldn't even keep up. Like it was, his hands became like a blur, like the way it is in front of this shitty camera, but like my eyes couldn't even keep up. Like, I was just like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, dude.
So he is bad man on the electric guitar. I'll tell you that right
now. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
And is a super chill dude. Like, we hung out in Seaside at that brewery and watched that fucking like MySpace core band from side stage, so to speak, and we just hung out, and he's really, really fun kid to hang out with. And it was funny because I was like, I'm like 15 years older than you, but I'm also like kind of intimidated. Like you're really fucking good.
He's got a heart of gold, man. The kid, he's the most humble kid ever. Fucking super professional, always a pleasure. I mean, he's never once have I ever heard any kind of cocky or anything that's not, cherubic coming from that kid. I mean, he's just fucking great kid.
Certainly at that age, and I teach a lot of musicians, and like, they're, dude, a 15-year-old man, like, and you got the hormones, and you like just set your life around one thing, you can get so good at it. Like, not all of us did that, like, some of us smoked too much weed or fucking played video games or went through a fucking girlfriend breakup or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, it's to stay like, and I just hope that he like does something for the genre, like really pushes it. And I'm excited.
I also think that the resource factor for the kids, or even at that age now, when I was 15, there was the internet, but there wasn't a YouTube where I could literally type in how to do this, how to do that, and you could geek out on that to where this is literally a teacher that is giving you, skills just by being on the internet. So I think that the opportunity to get to a higher level can start much earlier and much quicker because of the resources that are available now,
Yep. And I know he was also in School of Rock and, did a lot of, supported music education and stuff. So he channels all that. So that's great.
Yeah.
Plus the internet, definitely.
We're lucky to be growing up learning the same stuff. I mean, because it's just weird that, like, I mean, what year was it 18 years ago? Like, what year was it?
That was 2004.
Yeah,
no,
so
2006. 2006.
So that was like when like music from the 70s was like still popular, like Guitar World was still talking about bands like Led Zeppelin and stuff like that. And like I mean that's Nikhil will tell you that's how he got his early musical chops too, was learning all the 70s rock stuff just like me, like all the Led Zeppelin and all the Queen and Stevie Wonder and all that, so like all the chops that he and I fucking most of our stuff, I mean, it really comes from outside of metal, like to be completely honest.
Yeah. I mean, there are death metal musicians, and then there are like overall musicians who play death metal, and like there are a lot more people in death metal who are like kind of just death metal players, like Diego, and people like that, and tend to be more like blue collar and tend to be like that shapes their approach and some of their anachronisms and everything, and they bring a ton to the genre, and then there's like a role for dudes like me who like are coming from a more traditional music education background, like coming into death metal, trying to make sure that it's like, I don't know, like I guess I'm making this too personal. I was trying to make just a point about how those types are rarer, less common. But I think they tend to get hung up on certain things that I don't see him getting hung up on. So yeah. It's cool to have someone who's into it like that. Like Lille is another guy. Mike Gilbert is another guy like that.
Right.
So yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, it takes all the backgrounds to make the metal world go around. I mean, the academics, the blue collar guys. I mean, they all bring something to the table. And when you have both of them in the same band, like with TVV, I mean, that's a magical thing for sure.
It's kind of cool. You just made me think about this, Professor, which is totally true. There's contributors to death metal that are have experienced kind of the full spectrum of music and chose to express in death metal because that was their choice, but then there's other people that just get lured into it like it's they get sucked into a void that or a black hole that they just couldn't, you know what I'm saying? Like I didn't get to death metal through studying music, but there are people that do get to death metal studying music and other styles and realize this is actually the way that I want to express myself, and then those guys can do something great too. I'm sure there's got to be versions of that.
I don't know. It is pretty rare. I think if you're, like there are sexier genres of metal for sure. So
yeah. But there's got to be somebody who like they get to death metal and like, wait, what's that all about? And then they move on and they're like, oh no, I want to go study that a little bit more again.
Yeah.
Oh well. But
right. We've exceeded 3 hours, dude. Let's wrap it up with what Bludgeon has got in store for us soon.
I gotta touch on Violence Only a little bit too.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Those are my boys. We gotta talk about them. Bludgeon does have stuff coming up, but Violence Only, I mean, we're just getting started. I'm really stoked to be in a band with these guys. We got Braxton on vocals. He's from like Between the Killings. We got Mark on bass. You probably know him from like Orchidectomy and Reviled back in the day, like killer bass player.
He was on the pod. Yep, he did an episode with us.
In a band with this guy. Like, yeah, he's fucking sick. And then we got Renee on drums, fucking from Flesh Hoarder. I mean, he's got like the most authentic fucking early 2000s fucking feel, style, and drum sound I've like ever heard from a contemporary like death metal drummer. Like, I mean, every time you hear this guy play, you know it's him instantly. Like, even if you're blindfolded.
Yeah, he's somebody we'd love to talk to, dude. We've reached out to him. I think Renee Martinez, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we've reached out to him.
Yep.
He's hella sick.
We'd love to talk to
him. And then Waylon Pelkazar from Truth Devoid. He's in a band with Mike Majewski from Devourment as well, who is also the guy who did our logo. Shout out Mike Majewski. fucking OG in and of itself.
Hell yeah. SMN News OG too.
Let's pull that logo again.
Yes, sir. But Waylon is the primary songwriter in this band. Fucking, he writes the riffs, always the songs that are completed so far. I mean, and that shit is like really sick. Fucking like 2000 slam, like Devourment kind of slam, but mixed with a little bit of Pyrexia, kind of more polished slam too. So I'm feeling like the sound is going to be somewhere kind of in the middle between like the polished, sexy sounding stuff, and then there's just so super nasty, disgusting stuff too. But like it's the best music for like fucking lifting weights, fucking being jacked, which fucking Waylon is like the most fucking jacked beast of a dude ever. Like, I'm like
get jacked in 2024 to violence only, dude.
I mean, I feel bad. I mean, that
no violence in the gyms though. Everybody be friendly. Come on.
The only reason I got to even come in this band is because he unfortunately like injured himself really bad. Like he broke his ring finger of his, I believe, his left hand to the point where like it literally looks like bigger than two of my fingers. It's just one freaking finger.
What, he punched something?
He had a wire all the way through the finger and wrapped all the way around it. Like so he like shattered himself. Bad.
What the fuck happened, dude?
I didn't even ask him how it happened yet. I mean, I'm guessing maybe he dropped a dumbbell on it or something. Like,
was it
something really gnar? It might have been, but they're like, "Hey, we need someone to track guitar." Like, yo, Sean, what's up? Are you free? Braxton reached out, and I was like, "Dude, of course." Like, I mean, it's sick because I mean, those are the Chicago Death Fest, like Domination Fest homies. I met all those guys in person. Other than Waylon, I don't think he was there, unfortunately. But fucking Renee was there. Fucking Braxton was there. Mark was there. Got to eat at Kuma's Burgers with Mark. That was fucking sick. Fucking nice. All the cats from Brodequin were there too. Got to meet Brennan in person. He was super chill, super nice kid.
Yo, shout out that new Brodequin single. That thing is
yes. Like, you see, I got love for Brodequin.
Hell yeah! Look at you, dude.
That's I got tiny little anal stab.
I love all these bands coming back, dude. Like Brodequin finally sounding good. No offense. Like the production quality is like really amenable to me.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about the new production. We talked about this. I mean, you know, they have a couple good sounding records before this, but it just really, it's like there's nothing bad. It's just like immediately like delicious. And and I mean, I listened to the new Cryptopsy again today. It's like that record sounds great. Like fucking kind of they're back too. Like, dude, I love it.
I mean, listening.
I need to revisit that one. Honestly, I gotta check it out again.
When you listen to Flo and then seeing him live too, he's in the pocket so hard for being his age and playing this music for this long. I in some ways, I'm coughing right now. Sorry. Think he's better in certain ways. There's certain aspects of Flo's playing, seeing him live, where I'm like, this is probably the best version of Flo that I had seen, because he executed flawlessly and incorporated his. That's one thing too about, we can go on and on about Cryptopsy. Every album is a progression. There's no doubt that that band keeps moving forward with every album. It's undeniable, dude. You can argue it to the death. No matter what they've done, that band has shown that they're moving in a direction and they're still charging forth, dude. And Flo is one of the best, most unique drummers that I've ever seen, and he's shown me that you can still be that age and innovate, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the only time I've ever been starstruck, like meeting like a metal musician. Was when I was like 19 years old. I was like, it was Summer Slaughter. I believe it was the singer from Cryptopsy's birthday, and somehow my buddies that I had conned, like drunken Trevor Stranad, rest in peace, like led us on his tour bus, and like we started like drinking with them. But like, yeah, Flo comes on the bus, and I'm just like, oh my god, it's Flo! Yeah, I was like, be cool, like don't act like a dork or a dweeb right now, but like, He was saying something like how he had to like ice his ankle was so like swollen or messed up that he had to like ice it all day to the point where it was numb, like to be able to play the show. He was like, I couldn't even feel it. It was great. I was just like, that dude is a badass. Like, oh my god.
Guys, I really feel like an asshole right now because I totally wanted to say this up top, but R.I.P. Martin. He was live vocalist for Cryptopsy. Actually, the first time I had ever seen Cryptopsy, and it was a very important show, and I should have brought it up at the beginning of the show, and now I feel like a dick for not. But yeah, that man deserves his flowers for what he contributed to that band. Just as unique as any other Cryptopsy vocalist. If you really think about it, every vocalist of Cryptopsy has been his own person, and Martin was that on the road with Dimmu when I had seen Cryptopsy and Dimmu Borgir. And yeah, he was just as much of a strong force as anybody else has been involved in that project. And I just want to say rest in peace, Martin, dude. That was out of nowhere. And I mean, out of nowhere. Most of it's out of nowhere when you hear about people, dude, just dropping. We're all dropping here and there, dude, and unfortunately, it gets closer, to you. And yeah, dude, R.I.P. Martin.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, dude.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a tough one. He did a lot of amazing artwork too for a lot of bands like Gorgas. I know he did like the artwork for Colored Sands.
Yeah, dude, he did the harp skull. He did the harp skull on that Obscura t-shirt that I just recently got, and I'm like, fuck yeah, dude, I own a piece that has something that he,
Yep.
So yeah, no, it always sucks, dude, when somebody that you just anybody that, even if it's something small, that something comes into your life and you appreciate their contribution to whatever it is, dude. It's they made some sort of an impact on you. It always sucks. It sucks even when they don't make an impact on you. But yeah, dude. Now we're almost 3.5 hours into this, and we're gonna do the life and death thing. Don't get me on that, dude, because I'll fucking go for like another hour and a half.
It's all good. It's unfortunate when the legends fucking pass early for sure, and the older we get, the more it happens. But I mean, that's why I'm just glad that we have a new generation that's rising up now. Guys like Nikhil that can kind of like pick up where a lot of the legends left off. Like guys like Steve, drummer from Wisdom to Hate. I remember when that guy hung himself. Like that was like that crushed my heart because he was like such a legendary talent. The drummer on that record's still one of my favorite of all time. Steve McDonald, I believe, was that guy's name.
Yeah.
Incredible drummer. But
so no matter what, dude, this is the thing, dude. The people who contribute to this are gonna have some issues, but no matter what, it's always gonna keep going. We've seen metal get through all of that and strive and move on. And I think it's the vibe that we're putting into it, the energy that we're putting into it, and it moves on past us. So yes, most definitely the next generation is going to take it, and they're going to do something that's great for the people down the road. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that it isn't for me either. We were talking about the clean recordings and all that, and some of that we can not be attracted to that because it sounds to this and that, whatever. It doesn't matter. The people down the road, it's for them. That's what it is. So metal's never going to stop, dude. And we just always need to have that attitude that we're going to keep contributing to it in some way or form to make sure that it never stops. But even if we don't contribute, that bubble's big enough. That ain't bursting anytime soon. We got Slambient now, dude. Come on.
Speaking of the future, good note to end it on. You all saw the announcement that freaking Worm is coming to the United States.
Yeah, dude. Right? See, all these comebacks are happening, dude. Everybody's realizing, like, oh shit, what we were doing in the late 90s, early 2000s, mid 2000s is actually pretty sick, dude. Let's fucking try and do it again. Let's,
Yeah.
I
I'm gonna
think
hit up
that's really what
Texas.
it is.
I'm gonna try to hit that Texas Fest. Unless Worm plays closer to me, I'll just go to that. But I'll probably get more band announcements that'll convince me to go because I missed Chicago last year. I got to make a Domination Fest ASAP.
Yeah.
So
I can't officially announce this because Bludgeon hasn't been announced for anything yet, but there's an incredibly high chance that we are playing that. please don't kill me, Miguel. I always spill the beans. But
the statements are not.
I'm writing the press release right now.
No. Come to Texas Domination Fest 1. I mean, I'm telling you, it's gonna be a thing. I mean, Chicago was incredible. It was the best send off to that fest I could have ever imagined. It was my first real death fest I've ever been to. Got to see Berkeley, PSA, Petrie. I mean,
it was fun to it was fun to be a part of, like, promoting that too and watching everything unfold. And
yeah, we
CDP doing the CDF, dude.
We
CDP versus CDF.
The word on the street was that Bludgeon fucking killed that show too. That everyone was talking about your set afterwards.
That's actually the first time. I think that's actually, now that we mentioned that, that's the first time I heard your name because everybody was saying that you guys threw it down.
What's so crazy about that particular show is that that's the only time that we were literally forced to play with no rehearsal, like zero. We just showed up, got on stage. I mean, I got to get together with Nikhil in the hotel room for like an hour to like put some headphones on him, and he has a little drum pad just to go over a couple spots. But like, there was no full band rehearsal. We literally just showed up and did it. Yeah. Thank you to Chris in the comments. He's vouching for us, saying that multiple people now saying, yeah, we killed this.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Thank you guys for saying so, because
dude,
that was one for the record books. That ended up getting an endorsement deal even out of that show. If you can see this down here, my
Vader. Nice, dude. Mike's cutting out.
We can see it.
Yeah. So one of one with the actual Bludgeon. That's like probably my highest.
Hell
like
yeah.
My bucket list. I was wanting to own a Vader cab ever since like I was a little kid. Seeing freaking Suffocation have them, they recorded Blood Oath with them, and I was like, when Vader cabs went out of business, I thought I might not ever get to own one of these fucking things. People were selling them for like $3,000 on Reverb and shit. And
right.
He's back, baby. Adam's back, taking orders. So,
hell yeah.
Anyone that's interested, definitely reach out, hit him up because
that's our homies over there in Vader.
Yeah, he's the best of the best for sure, especially for this style of music. It doesn't get any better.
Right on, guys. What do you got?
Should we do it? Should we wrap it?
We should wrap it, dude. I mean, you guys getting ready for anything specific Bludgeon related in the near future?
Well, we're very nearing completion on this 3-song. I mean, it was supposed to be a winter promo that was supposed to come out the end of last year, but life stuff happened. We had some personal losses too close to the band. So I don't want to go back to the life and death thing, but I mean, John's been going through it. He lost his best friend. They found his car in a ditch recently. So that's been really, really rough on everyone close to that. But we're not, I mean, we've pushed through every kind of imaginable kind of tragedy to keep this thing going. So we're not throwing in the towel. We're still going to eventually put out that DIY 3-song promo in the style to be the same. But we're like mixing and mastering all ourselves, kind of very, very, I mean, if anyone's heard the new single we put up, it's going to be kind of in the same vein, but just pushing the envelope with the technicality, trying just to one up ourselves. I think I used Tone Rose for the first time in the next track that you're going to hear. So like you're going to hear some Disputed Sanity, kind of the 12-tone craziness going on.
Nice.
Well, more crazy brutality. But then, full length's coming after that. We're going to pull out all the stops, shop around for labels too. So any labels that are interested in having Bludgeoned on your roster, keep your ear to the ground for our new stuff because we think you're going to like it.
Hell yeah, dude. Yeah, I endorse this band. They are a joy to listen to.
Thank you.
Yeah, I definitely had a good time with it. All right, cool, dude. Sean, thank you so much for all your time, all the plugs, Battleforge Coffee, twitch.tv, Cali Death Podcast, generatorrehearsalstudios.com. Sean, where do you want people to go?
Instagram.com/bludgeonedofficial, and then look up Violence Only on Facebook. I want to thank you guys so much for having me. It's been a complete blast and a fucking honor. I just want to tell everyone out there to keep it sick and brutal.
Hell yeah, dude. Thanks. Thank you, dude. I had a good chat. Cool. We'll see you guys next week, and have a great weekend. Be safe and rock on.
Cheers.
Cheers.